Chapter 770. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are available here. The Han family. As night fell, the servants lit up the candles in Fifth Master Han's courtyard. The lanterns in the corridor were also hung up one by one. Fifth Master Han was meditating in the room. Old Master Han was sitting in the hall beside him. Han Lei and Third Master Han were also there. Han Lei had his hands behind his back and was pacing around the room with a frown. Third Master Han said helplessly, "Big brother, can you stop pacing around? You're making me dizzy." Han Lei said rudely, "If you don't want to stay here, go back." Third Master Han glanced at the old man who had his hands on his cane and his eyes closed. He muttered to himself, "I want to go back, but if I don't care about Fifth Master, won't the old man strangle me to death?" After an unknown amount of time, a long breathing sound finally came from Fifth Grandfather Han's room. Han Lei's eyes lit up. "It's Fifth Master." Old Master Han slowly opened his old and sharp eyes and said in a deep voice, "You two go next door and check on the situation." "Yes, father," Han Lei replied. Han Lei and the sloppy Third Master Han went next door. There was no one else in the room except for Fifth Master Han, who was meditating and healing. In the past few days, Gu Jiao wasn't the only one recuperating. Fifth Master Han had also walked around the gates of hell. Han Lei quickly walked to the bed and asked with concern, "Fifth brother, how are you feeling?" Fifth Master Han took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He opened his eyes and said, "Much better." Han Lei was still a little worried. He looked him up and down and said, "Are you really not feeling uncomfortable? Do you want to call a doctor to take a look?" Fifth Master Han said lightly, "Big brother knows my situation very well. There's no need to call a doctor. It's useless." Han Lei was speechless. Yes, Han Si's situation was indeed incurable, but there was no need for treatment. He recovered very quickly. This matter started when Han Si was poisoned when he was young. That year, Han Si was only 11 or 12 years old. He went out hunting with the elders of the clan and got separated from his family on the way. He was accidentally poisoned. At that time, many of the Han family's guards were poisoned with him. When the elders of the clan came to find them, the guards had all died from the poison. Only Han Si was lucky enough to survive. The elders asked Han Si what happened and why she was poisoned. Han Si remained silent. Since then, Han Si's body had undergone an incredible change. First, his punches and kicks became faster, and then his internal strength became more violent. A martial artist's inner strength was measured by years, but Han Si's inner strength increased every month. All of a sudden, he became the most talented youth in the clan. Logically speaking, such good news should be made known to the world. However, just as the Han family was planning to do so, they unexpectedly discovered a strand of white hair on Han Si's head. They had only seen young people with white hair in novels. They had never thought that it would happen to Han Si. Han Si's sudden talent came at the cost of overdrawing her lifespan. This strange thing happened after Han Si was poisoned, and the Han family guessed that it was the aftereffects of the poison. The stronger Han Si was, the faster she would age. In order to save her life, Han Si could only give up on pursuing higher martial arts realms. The path of a genius stopped here. Even so, Han Si still aged faster than a normal person. If it weren't for Han Ye's accident, the Han family wouldn't have let Han Si take action. Fifth brother. Third Master Han looked at Han Si's hair and widened his eyes in a daze. Han Si originally only had a layer of silver hair on the surface, but now, the inside was much whiter. Fifth Master Han said indifferently, "I'm fine, third brother." Third Master Han fell silent. Han Lei voiced his doubts. "Speaking of which, fifth brother, how did you lose to Xiao Lulang?" Han Si paused and told him the truth. "I was distracted during the fight." Han Lei was shocked. "It's taboo to be distracted. Fifth brother, how could you make such a low-level mistake during the fight?" Han Si was silent for a moment before saying indifferently, "I just thought of someone." "Is it that person from the Xinyuan family?" "Fifth brother, you Han Lei didn't finish his sentence. Han Lei sighed and said earnestly, "Fifth brother, you should let it go. All these years, third brother and I have been hiding things about you from father for you, but don't always make things difficult for us." Han Xiai said in a low voice, "Thank you, big brother and third brother." Third Master Han waved his hand. "Brothers don't talk about this. It's big brother who doesn't want to hide it anymore. I didn't say anything. I can hide it for a lifetime." Han Lei glared fiercely at this prodigal. Third Master Han shrunk his neck resentfully and didn't dare to say anything else. Han Lei continued to look at Han Xiai. "But fifth brother, tell big brother the truth. Is Xianyuan Xiaolu really dead?" Han Xiai looked into big brother's scrutinizing eyes and said seriously, "He's dead. I killed him with my own hands." Han Lei smiled embarrassedly. "Big brother isn't suspecting you. Big brother just feels that you were too close to him back then. After the Xianyuan family's incident, you still secretly hid him. If the guards hadn't discovered it in time, our Han family would have been charged with harboring a traitor." Han Xiai said. "Big brother also saw the corpse. He is indeed dead." Han Lei was frightened by his younger brother's gaze. He smiled and said, "All right, let's not talk about those unlucky things. You should recuperate well. Strictly speaking, this matter isn't your fault. It's that Xiao Luleng who is too cunning. When we find an opportunity in the future, we'll get rid of him. The Black Wind Cavalry will return to our Han family sooner or later." Han Xiai didn't continue the previous topic. He said, "I heard that Qi Xian is dead." At the mention of this, Han Lei became angry. "Qi Xian even hid the fact that he went to assassinate Xiao Luleng from me. He almost got into big trouble. It doesn't matter if he's dead, but it won't be good if he implicates our Han family." Han Xiai didn't understand and asked, "How did he die?" Han Lei replied, "His organs were pierced by a long sword and he died. None of the guards he brought with him survived. They were all killed by the long sword. The coroner estimated that the time of his death was noon that day." Han Xiai recalled and said, "At noon, I was fighting with Daoist Qingfeng. No. What's wrong?" Han Lei looked at him. Han Xiai frowned. "At noon, Xiao Luleng should be being chased by Long Outyan. One was Long Outyan, and the other was Qi Xian. How could Xiao Luleng escape unscathed? There's something wrong with Long Outyan. He killed Qi Xian." Han Lei exclaimed, "He's from the Crown Prince's residence. Why did the Crown Prince kill Qi Xian?" Han Xiai clenched his fists. "Of course the Crown Prince wouldn't kill Qi Xian. Long Outyan is a spy. He purposely got close to the Crown Prince. Brother, quickly inform the Crown Prince to kill Long Outyan." The Crown Prince's residence. Gu Chongqing was playing chess with the Crown Prince in the pavilion. The Crown Prince had just placed a white chess piece when Gu Chongqing's black chess piece caught up and cut off the Crown Prince's path. The Crown Prince was shocked. "I didn't expect that not only are you good at martial arts, but you're also so good at chess. I only learned a little from my sister. It's enough to torture you. Are your injuries okay?" the Crown Prince asked with concern. "It's just a small injury. It's not a problem," Gu Chongqing said. The Crown Prince said regretfully, "I thought that with you taking action, you could help the Han family. Who would have thought that Xiao Liulong's luck would be so good?" Gu Chongqing said, "It's my fault." The Crown Prince shook his head. "You can't be blamed for this. Even Han Xiai lost to Xiao Luleng. I'm afraid it'll be hard for you to gain an advantage over Xiao Luleng." "That's right. Last time I asked you to investigate the identity of this fake Xiao Luleng. How did it go?" Gu Chongqing's expression didn't change as he said, "He's very cautious. I didn't find too many useful clues." The Crown Prince frowned. "I'm afraid only Nangongli knows who this fake Xiao Luleng is. It's a pity that Nangongli died." If he didn't die, the fact that his sister was Gu Jiao would have been exposed. It was good that he died. Gu Chongqing calmly said, "Your Highness, I can assassinate the deposed Crown Princess and the Imperial eldest grandson to clear the way for your Highness. I ask your Highness to allow me to redeem myself." The Crown Prince quickly raised his hand to stop him. "Don't. The situation has been too tense recently. Let's wait for this period of time to pass." The two continued to play chess. Suddenly, a guard hurriedly walked over and whispered a few words into the crown prince's ear. The crown prince frowned and waved his hand to have him withdraw. Then the crown prince said to Gu Changqing, "Who else does this prince need to deal with? We'll play another day." After saying this, the crown prince brought his servant to the study. Gu Changqing returned to his own courtyard. Little Nine fluttered his wings and landed on his windowsill. Little Nine had only been brought here once, so he remembered the location. These days, it was inconvenient for him to visit Gu Jiao, so it was Little Nine who sent him messages. He opened the note. It was written in Xiao Heng's handwriting. Seeing that Gu Jiao had woken up and was recovering well, his worried heart relaxed. There were also 2 flower seals on the note. It was obvious that it was stamped by little Jing Kong. This childish little seal appeared on Xiao Heng's serious handwriting. It wasn't hard to imagine an adult and a child arguing endlessly with a sullen face. Gu Changqing couldn't help but laugh. Dong dong dong. There was a heavy knock on the door. It was very urgent. Gu Changqing clenched his hand and used his internal energy to turn the note into powder. He threw it out the window and said, "Come in." With a creak, the door was pushed open. It was the little mute slave from the courtyard who came to deliver dinner. The little mute slave was only 10 years old this year, and was still a child. He was accidentally saved by Gu Changqing from the crown prince's residence's steward. Since then he had been following Gu Changqing. He put the box of food on the table, and anxiously gestured to Gu Changqing for a while. Gu Changqing didn't understand. "I taught you how to write. Can you write?" The little mute slave grabbed the writing brush and scratched her head. She racked her brains for a long time before she finally wrote 2 words on the paper that were missing a few strokes. "Danger, danger." Gu Changqing thought for a moment and asked the little mute slave, "Are you saying that the crown prince's residence is in danger?" The little mute slave nodded and anxiously pointed to the door. He anxiously ran a few steps. This time Gu Changqing understood. The little mute slave wanted him to quickly escape. Gu Changqing stood up, grabbed the sword on the table, and rushed out the door. However, as soon as he stepped over the threshold, a long sword with a cold gleam pierced towards him, stabbing into his chest. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/8964/2_8964286/1064956535. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 771. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Changqing's body stiffened as he looked at the shadowy man in front of him in shock. The man was wearing a black robe and a black cloak. His face was hidden in the darkness, only revealing a pair of eyes that were colder than a sword. The man's long sword pierced through Gu Changqing's chest. Then the man coldly pulled out the long sword, and the blood that splashed out was blocked by his sword. Gu Changqing was like a puppet that had its strength sucked out as he fell to the ground in a daze. The little mute slave was too scared to move. The man didn't even look at the little mute slave as he ordered the guards behind him. "Dispose of the body." Yes. The guards complied. One of them squatted down and reached out to touch Gu Changqing's neck. He really was dead. The crown prince's palace couldn't accommodate such an unlucky thing like a corpse. Several people found a dilapidated cart and threw Gu Changqing's body onto the cart. The sky that had been hot all day suddenly thundered. It looked like it was going to rain. The guards covered the body with a straw mat and walked out from the back door of the crown prince's palace. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. Along the way, they met many pedestrians who were in a hurry to find shelter from the rain. Ah, how unlucky! Why is it us again? One of the guards driving the cart said. Another guard said, "It's not bad to come out for a walk. Don't you feel bored staying in the palace all the time? But we have to go to the mass grave. There are rotten corpses there. Sometimes you can see broken limbs. If you're unlucky, you may come back infected with a bad disease. You're making me scared." After half an hour, several people came to the mass grave that exuded the smell of death and decay. The corpses here were not buried on the spot, but were mostly abandoned. The smell of the breeze was nauseating. The shadows of the trees and the cawing of crows made people feel cold. "Quickly throw it back. This place is so king scary. Then stop here. Don't get too close." The two of them stopped the carriage near the mass grave and jumped off to move Gu Chongqing's body. But when the two of them lifted the straw mat that covered the corpse, they found that the corpse in the car had disappeared. Their expressions changed, and their first reaction was to look under the carriage. The guard asked, "What's going on?" "No one was under the carriage," his companion said in fear. I don't know. Could it be a zombie?" The guard frowned. "Not good. Quickly inform His Highness." You actually didn't die after being hit by my sword." When the black-robed man heard the report, he glanced at the guard, put down the teacup in his hand, and said to the crown prince, "This person is a bit interesting. I'll go and catch him." The crown prince called out to the black-robed man, "Wait, he was hit by Mr. Sword and is severely injured. I don't think he can run far. Just leave the search to the embroidered uniform guards. It's best if you don't expose your identity." The black-robed man said slowly, "That's good too. My sword injured his foundation. Even if he luckily escaped, he won't be able to live past tonight." The crown prince said, "I have to see him die with my own eyes to be at ease." It's raining again. Gu Jiao pushed the wheelchair to the window and used the hanging rod to hook the support pole of the window. Just as she was about to close the window, a wet figure fell from the sky. His body swayed twice and fell to the ground with a plop. The heavy rain poured down, scattering the pedestrians on the street. The embroidered uniform guards from the crown prince's residence, wearing straw capes and bamboo hats, ran wildly in the heavy rain. Whoosh! When they reached the entrance of the state preceptor's hall, they pulled on the reins and stopped the galloping horses. The leader of the embroidered uniform guards coldly said, "Are you sure it's here?" Another embroidered uniform guard said, "Yes, sir. I tracked him here and saw him climb over the wall into the state preceptor's hall. Sir, should we go in and search?" The leader of the embroidered uniform guards looked at the majestic plaque of the state preceptor's hall in the heavy rain and sneered, "Is the state preceptor's hall a place where you can search as you wish? Even Commandant Guan was denied entry when he personally came to search. You and I are just a few embroidered uniform guards. We don't even have the right to enter the state preceptor's hall." The embroidered uniform guard asked, "Then what should we do?" The leader of the embroidered uniform guards frowned and said, "The few of you guard the entrance of the state preceptor's hall. Guard the walls well. Once he escapes, capture him immediately. I will inform His Highness." "Yes." The leader of the embroidered uniform guards rushed back to the crown prince's residence and reported to the crown prince about Long Outyan's escape into the state preceptor's hall. The crown prince was so angry that he slammed his fist on the table. He really knows how to hide. The only place in Shengsheng that could not be searched was the state preceptor's hall. Even if Long Outyan hid in the palace, it would not be so troublesome. After all, it was easy to find a reason to search the palace, but not the state preceptor's hall. Say that an assassin entered? The state preceptor's hall will say that we will find the assassin ourselves, and that there is no need for the crown prince to worry. The crown prince gritted his teeth and said, "He knows too many secrets. We cannot let him fall into the hands of the state preceptor's hall. Men, prepare the carriage. I want to go to the state preceptor's hall." Half an hour later, the crown prince's carriage arrived at the state preceptor's hall. "Your Highness." The disciple of the state preceptor's hall came forward to greet him. The crown prince opened the window and said to the disciple, "I want to see your state preceptor." The disciple of the state preceptor's hall hurriedly went to inform the crown prince. Not long after, the state preceptor walked out calmly, Yi Qing was beside him holding an umbrella for him. "Your Highness." The state preceptor greeted him calmly. The crown prince was still sitting in the carriage. His gaze fell on the state preceptor's cold face. He had seen the state preceptor's young appearance. He was a handsome man who was not inferior to the Duke of, and time flew by in years past. The state preceptor's face had wrinkles and vicissitudes of life. Rainy days always made people melancholy. Look at what he was thinking. The crown prince collected his thoughts and said to the state preceptor, "To be honest, there is a traitor in my residence." My embroidered uniform guard saw him escape into the state preceptor's hall. The state preceptor said, "Is that so? Yi Qing, take people to search. See if there is the assassin that your highness mentioned in the state preceptor's hall." Yi Qing, "Yes." "Wait," the crown prince said in a deep voice. "I want to search myself." Yi Qing said neither humbly nor overbearingly, "Your highness, this is the state preceptor's hall, not the crown prince's palace." The implication was that he did not have the qualifications to search here. The crown prince did not look at Yi Qing. He just looked at the state preceptor with his eyes like torches. "What if I must search today?" The two sides looked at each other. The crown prince's eyes burst out with strong murderous intent. His attitude was very firm. Today he had to search. Even if he did not want to search, he had to search. Even if he had to shed all pretense of cordiality and be scolded by his father for being disrespectful to the state preceptor, he had to find Long Out Yen. In the end, the state preceptor gave in. He said, "Yi Qing, take the crown prince to search." The crown prince said arrogantly, "No need. My people will search by themselves." The crown prince walked out of the carriage. The guard on the side opened the umbrella for him. The state preceptor and Yi Qing moved to the side. The crown prince brought the embroidered uniform guards and walked in front of the master and disciple. Gu Chongqing was heavily injured. Normally, there would be bloodstains along the way. However, the rain was too heavy. The traces on the ground had already been washed away by the rain. The crown prince's embroidered uniform guards were everywhere. They practically turned the state preceptor's hall upside down. They even went to the purple bamboo forest and the third floor of the library. The state preceptor asked, "Your Highness, did you find anything?" The crown prince frowned and asked the leader of the embroidered uniform guards in a low voice, "Did he really enter the state preceptor's hall?" "He did," the leader of the embroidered uniform guard said. At this time, an older and more experienced embroidered uniform guard said, "Your Highness, there is still a place that has not been searched." The crown prince said, "Where?" He said, "Qilin Hall. You can't go in." At the entrance of the Qilin Hall, two embroidered uniform guards were stopped by the state preceptor's hall disciple on duty. The embroidered uniform guards coldly said, "We are under the order of the crown prince to search for assassins." The disciple of the state preceptor hall said, "We don't have any assassins here. His Highness Zhongsun and the commander are resting. Don't disturb their rest." The embroidered uniform guard sneered, "Ridiculous, a mere imperial grandson dares to stop the crown prince's people. A mere dog of the crown prince's palace dares to criticize the imperial grandson?" Sheng Guanyan's voice came from the back of the hall. Although she was holding a crutch, her eyes were sharp and her aura was fierce. Her whole body was exuding a powerful imperial aura. The candlelight in the hall was dim, only illuminating her slender and straight figure. However, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed across the sky, illuminating the entire state preceptor's hall. At that moment, everyone saw Sheng Guanyan's dignified face. Everyone's heart thumped. They seemed to see the crown princess who was shouting at Chengdu come back. Sheng Guanyan held her crutch and walked out of the ascension ceremony. She came to the door. The powerful crown princess aura instantly made people feel the pressure from the soul. The two embroidered uniform guards unconsciously took a step back. "Third sister, long time no see. How have you been?" The crown prince came from the back with a cold face. Behind him were more than a dozen embroidered uniform guards. Unlike Sheng Guanyan, who was alone. But even so, there was no trace of fear in Sheng Guanyan's eyes. "Imperial father is not here. There's no need to act like a brother and sister." The crown prince smiled sarcastically. "Third sister, you admit it? Your amnesia is fake." Shang Guanyan said without fear. If you have evidence, then go to the emperor and report me. The crown prince smiled and said, Third sister and I are brothers. How can I do such an unreasonable thing? In fact, if third sister wants to go back to Xingdu, you don't have to go through so much trouble. As long as third sister tells me, I will take third sister back. Shang Guanyan sighed. Alas, you still like to eat sweet potatoes. The crown prince frowned. Before he could react to this sentence, he saw the embroidered uniform guard next to him was holding back his laughter. What are you laughing at? The crown prince frowned and asked. The embroidered uniform guard whispered. Your Highness, if you eat too much sweet potatoes you will fart. She is saying that you like to fart. The crown prince. After so many years, third sister really hasn't changed at all. She is still so irritating. Shang Guanyan spread out her hands. Unfortunately, you have changed. You have become a lot older. Those who know you say you are my younger brother. Those who don't know you think you are my uncle. The crown prince was so angry that he fell backwards. In these years, he has indeed experienced a lot of vicissitudes of life. Unlike Shang Guanyan, who was a salted fish in the imperial tomb, who was carefree, the crown prince clenched his fists. Third sister, you don't have to change the topic. Today, I came to catch the assassin. Third sister, you are blocking me. Could it be that third sister is harboring the assassin? Yes, if Long Outyin has nothing to do with the crown princess, why would he hide in the state preceptor's hall at a critical moment? It turned out to be you, Shang Guanyan. Shang Guanyan's eyes flashed and she bluffed. Do you have evidence? If you don't have evidence, don't slander me. The crown prince narrowed his eyes. Do you have a guilty conscience, Shang Guanyan? He coldly said. Today, I came to catch the assassin. I don't have time to quarrel with you. If you don't want to get hurt, you better get out of the way. Shang Guanyan said. What if I don't? The crown prince smiled coldly. Then I can only offend you. Someone come. Pull my third sister away. Stop. Xiaoheng shouted. He walked out of the corridor and walked through the lobby to the door. His tall body blocked in front of Shang Guanyan. A disciple of the state preceptor's hall pushed Gu Jiao out behind him. The crown prince looked at Xiaoheng, and then looked at Gu Jiao in the wheelchair. His eyes gradually became cold. Wang Su had already probed. The one who lived in the state preceptor's hall was the real imperial grandson. But why did he always feel that something was strange? Xiaoheng faintly glanced at the crowd and said to the crown prince. Isn't the crown prince's hand stretched too far? My mother was ordered to recuperate in the state preceptor's hall. If you dare to let those servants touch my mother with dirty water, you're not afraid that imperial grandfather will blame you. The crown prince snapped. Shang Guanqing, don't use imperial father to suppress me. As the crown prince, it's natural for me to catch the assassin. Even the state preceptor agreed. If you know what's good for you, then obediently get out of the way. Otherwise, I will also arrest you. Xiaoheng didn't show any fear. Then you can try. The crown prince narrowed his eyes. Do it. As soon as his voice fell, a genie guard rushed to Xiaoheng's lapel and grabbed it. Gu Jiao in the wheelchair looked cold. She took off the gauze on her right hand and supported herself on the armrest. Like a small cannon, she hit the genie guard. She grabbed the neck of the genie guard and knocked him out of the Qilin Hall. He fiercely fell on the bluestone floor. With a loud bang, the rainwater on the ground splashed 3 feet high. The water droplets could be seen. The man didn't even have the chance to fight back. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. Everyone was stunned. The heavy rain fell on her body. Her black hair was wet. She was wearing a young man's long gown, but her thin body emitted a terrifying power. She turned her head in the heavy rain and looked at the crown prince and the genie guards with a ferocious gaze like a blood wolf. I see, who dares to touch him? Digression. Do early chapters get monthly votes? The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg com/89642_896422826/1064743443. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 772. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all available here. The genie guards subconsciously stepped back. This was an instinctive crisis reaction. They couldn't control it for a while. The crown prince clenched his fists. He had witnessed the boy defeating the Shaolin monks in the boxing match. At that time, the boy was not so powerful. What happened? How did the boy's strength increase so much? Gu Jiao was also surprised. She found out that her strength had recovered a lot. It was almost 50% of her strength in her previous life. It seemed that the fight with Han Yi was not in vain. If there were 6 more genie guards from the crown prince's mansion, she would not be as embarrassed as before. She could defeat them all. The situation is not good. I didn't expect this boy to become so strong. I didn't bring enough people. I can't search, damn it. The crown prince clenched his fists. At this time, Zhang Dequan's voice suddenly came from behind. The emperor has arrived. Imperial father came? The crown prince's face changed. The next second he secretly rejoiced. Imperial father came at the right time. As long as he said that there was an assassin inside, which may endanger the safety of Shangguan Yin and her son, Imperial father will certainly agree to search. The crown prince gave the genie guard's leader a wink and whispered, "What should we do when we find him?" The genie guard's leader whispered, "I know." The crown prince looked at the direction where the emperor came and continued to whisper, "This is our only chance. If we don't get rid of Long Out Yin now, when they transfer him to a safe place and come back to expose us, we will be very passive." The genie guard's leader understood. "Your Highness, don't worry. This subordinate will not let Long Out Yin have a chance to speak. When he found Long Out Yin, he would kill him with a single slash." The emperor came because of the young princess. The heavy rain couldn't stop the young princess from coming to the state preceptor hall to see her little friend. The palace servants held a big oil paper umbrella for the emperor. The young princess was in the emperor's arms. Her small body was hidden under the cloak. "Have we arrived?" Her adorable little head popped out from under the cloak. The monarch's face darkened when he saw the scene. He did not let the young princess see him, and only handed her to Zhang Dequan. "Bring the young princess in." Yes. Zhang Dequan carried the young princess and her cloak over. "Where are we going? Where are we going?" the young princess asked as she nestled in the cloak. Zhang Dequan's expression was solemn, but his tone carried a smile as if nothing had happened. "Let's go and find the little commandery princess's schoolmate." The young princess was obedient. "Oh, okay." Zhang Dequan carried the young princess to Xiaoheng and little Jingkong's room. As the savior of the young commandery princess, little Jingkong also had the right to recuperate in the state preceptor's hall. Everyone in the state preceptor's hall knew that he and the emperor's grandson hit it off, and was willing to let him accompany him. In the house, the two little fellows met. They faced each other and flapped their little arms, like two little chicks that had just come out of the nest. "Light Shui, you're here?" "Yes, Jingkong, I'm here." Zhang Dequan gently closed the door from the inside. Outside the Qilin Hall, the monarch glanced at the crown prince and Xiaoheng, who were at loggerheads. He asked in a deep voice, "What are you doing now?" Xiaoheng coughed weakly. He was no longer as overbearing as he was in front of the crown prince. He felt wronged and weak as he said, "Imperial grandfather, the crown prince bullied me." The crown prince almost choked to death. He finally understood what was wrong with his nephew just now. Before the monarch came, he was so energetic and arrogant. The crown prince gritted his teeth. "Weren't you very energetic just now? Why did you start to look so sick when Imperial father came?" Xiaoheng did not deny it. "Isn't it because there was no one to support me and my mother just now?" If I didn't try my best to stay strong, would I have to watch you bully my mother? The corner of the crown prince's mouth twitched. What a shameless person. Xiao Heng continued to complain. He looked at the genie guard who was beaten by Gu Jiao until he vomited blood and fainted. He pitifully said, "Thanks to Xiao Gongzi's timely action, otherwise the person lying there now would be me. Xiao Gongzi, don't stand in the rain, you still have injuries on your body." Gu Jiao walked to Xiao Heng's side. The monarch looked at the genie guard who fainted, and his eyes turned cold. He said to the crown prince, "Your genie guard attacked Qing, er?" The crown prince hurriedly cupped his hands and saluted. "Imperial father, please listen to this son's explanation. Damn it, how come this kid's ability to complain became so powerful?" The monarch looked at the pale Xiao Heng, and then looked at Shang Guanyin who was holding a crutch. He said in a cold tone, "Good, I'll listen to your explanation." The crown prince secretly felt bad. If it was Shang Guanyin who was attacked just now, it would be fine. Although it was rude, Shang Guanyin was a concubine after all. But he made people attack the imperial grandson. The monarch didn't depose the imperial grandson. The crown prince had a headache. But he can't let go of his only chance. He can only take the risk. He said, "Imperial father, there was a traitor in this son's mansion. He tried to assassinate this son, but was injured by this son's bodyguard. The bodyguard tracked him, and found that he fled to the state preceptor hall. This son insisted on searching because I was worried that the traitor would hurt third sister and Qing. But I don't know why third sister and Qing tried to stop me. Did you?" The monarch looked at Xiao Heng and Shang Guanyin with a heavy gaze. The mother and son shook their heads together. "No." The crown prince. Shang Guanyin sighed and said, "So it turned out to be searching for an assassin. Can't the crown prince talk nicely? You just came up and started to attack. Those who know will say that you're here to catch the assassin, but those who don't know will think that you're here to catch me. Please." After saying that, she stepped aside to make a path. Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao also stepped aside. The crown prince was almost angered to death by this mother and son who inverted black and white. However, why did Shang Guanyin suddenly dare to let him search? Has Long Outyan been transferred? Impossible, his people are guarding the front and back door of the Qilin Hall. Long Outyan must still be in the Qilin Hall. The crown prince led the genie guards into the hall to search. When he brushed past Shang Guanyin lightly said, "Crown prince, when we were children, you never won when we played the game of hiding things." The crown prince's pupils shrank. He clenched his fingers and coldly looked at Shang Guanyin. He whispered, "Third sister, don't worry. This time, I will never lose." More than a dozen genie guards acted separately and searched the rooms one by one. The monarch, the crown prince Xiao Heng, Gu Jiao, and Shang Guanyin waited in the hall. Not long after, the genie guards came to the hall to report. "You didn't find it?" The crown prince frowned and asked. Everyone shook their heads. The leader of the genie guard said, "There are still 2 rooms that haven't been searched. One is the room where Xiao Junju is playing. The other is the secret room guarded by the men of sacrifice from the state preceptor palace." The crown prince turned his head to look at Shang Guanyin and the other 2. He keenly found that the 3 people's expressions slightly changed, especially the fake Xiao Lulang. He almost rushed out to stop the genie guards. The crown prince asked the monarch, "Imperial father, please allow me to search." The monarch nodded to the crown prince and turned his head to order a disciple of the state preceptor palace. "Call the state preceptor. I want to search the secret room." Gu Jiao clenched her fist and her arm stiffened. Xiao Heng held her wrist to comfort her. All of this was keenly seen by the crown prince. When the state preceptor arrived at the Qilin Hall, the room where Xiao Junju and little Jing Kong were in had been searched by the genie guards. They found nothing. The crown prince said politely, "State preceptor, please allow the people of the crown prince palace to search your secret room." The state preceptor said, "That secret room is guarded by men of sacrifice. No assassin can easily break in. What if they have something to do and left, or were led away by someone? State preceptor, can you guarantee that absolutely no such thing will happen?" The crown prince did not suspect that the state preceptor would deliberately cover up. The state preceptor was also involved in the death of the Xianyuan family. He and the crown princess were enemies. The crown princess could recuperate in the state preceptor palace because of the monarch. How could he help her hide people? The state preceptor glanced at Gu Jiao and said to the crown prince, "Does the crown prince not trust the men of sacrifice of the state preceptor palace? I can assure you that there is no one hiding in the secret room." The crown prince smiled. "State preceptor has repeatedly obstructed us. Is there anything in this secret room that we can't see?" The state preceptor opened his mouth. The monarch said impatiently, "Okay, stop arguing. State preceptor, tell your people to get out of the way." The state preceptor looked at Gu Jiao secretly. Gu Jiao clenched her small fist tightly. It was just that the monarch had issued a decree. Even if he was the state preceptor, he could not disobey the emperor's will. He said to the two men of sacrifice, "You can leave." The men of sacrifice retreated to the side. The state preceptor said again, "Yiqing Yuhi, you go open the door." "Yes." The two men cupped their hands and answered. The crown prince frowned and winked at the leader of the genie guards. "In a while, when the door opens, remember to rush in and kill Gu Changqing." The leader of the genie guards understood. "Your Highness, rest assured, this little one will not use a knife. This little one will use internal force to shatter his heart meridian." Yi Qing took the key from the two men of sacrifice and brought Yuhi to the door. When he went to open the bronze lock, he found a drop of half-dried blood under the bronze lock. "Someone has been here." Yi Qing wanted to ask the two men of sacrifice, "Did you leave just now?" The words were swallowed back to his lips. He did not say anything. He inserted the key into the keyhole and turned it in a big circle. When he took down the bronze lock, he deliberately touched the iron door. "Is it so slow to open a door?" the crown prince lightly asked. Yi Qing retorted, "The door is very heavy. How about your highness open it yourself?" The crown prince humphed. Yi Qing and Yuhi worked together to open the heavy iron door. Yuhi's skills were not deep, and Yi Qing used less strength, so the door opened slowly. But no matter how slow it was still completely pushed open. When the empty room completely appeared in front of everyone, Gu Changqing's figure could no longer hide. "It's you?" Yuhi blurted out. He did not expect that there was someone inside, and it was someone he knew. Yi Qing also recognized Gu Changqing's face, but his temperament was calmer than Yuhi's, so he was not surprised. The leader of the genie guards next to the crown prince was about to rush in and kill him, but was stopped by the crown prince. The crown prince was a very smart person. If he remembered correctly, Yuhi had never seen Long Outyen. But why did Yuhi look like he saw an acquaintance? He looked back at Shang Guanyan and the other two. Shang Guanyan and Xiao Heng were very nervous. It seemed that there was a good show to watch. Killing Long Outyen was the first choice, but it was not the best choice. If he could prove that Long Outyen and Shang Guanyan colluded, then his harvest would be too big. "This little master is called Yuhi? Do you know this person?" The crown prince gently asked Yuhi. Yi Qing closed his eyes with a headache. How could he not see that his master wanted to protect Xiao Lulang? Yuhi, this idiot, let his master's painstaking efforts go to waste. Yuhi also felt the powerful aura of his senior apprentice brother, and was scared to speak. The king said, "You just say it, do you know this person?" Yuhi bowed his head. "State preceptor." The king looked at the state preceptor. The state preceptor said, "Tell the truth." Yuhi got his master's approval, then whispered, "He is a friend of the emperor's grandson and young master Xiao. He came to the state preceptor hall several times." The crown prince asked again, "When was the first time he came?" Yuhi said the date. The crown prince laughed. "This person came to my house the next day and said he wanted to rely on me. Peng Hai of the underground martial arts arena can testify. Third sister. Third sister, so he was a spy you placed beside me." Gu Jiao bravely stepped forward. "This matter has nothing to do with the former crown princess and the emperor's grandson. He and I are both from the Zhao kingdom. Just when His Majesty ordered me to enter the palace to save the crown princess, I encountered a wave of assassination. Coincidentally, young Master Gu arrived in time and saw injustice on the road. Later, he learned that we are from the same hometown, so I became friends with young Master Gu. I don't know about him going to the Crown Prince's palace as an advisor. After that, he did come to the State Preceptor Hall several times, but we are just friends from the same hometown. Crown Prince. I'll be a fool if I believe you. The Crown Prince wanted to say, Xiao Lulang, so that's how you got your position as the commander. It's because Long Outyin secretly helped you cheat. But the Crown Prince finally restrained himself. Because even if Long Outyin was a spy sent by Shang Guanyan, it was his idea to let Long Outyin replace the Han family to participate in the selection. He was the one who broke the rules. Forget it, this is a small matter. As long as it can be proven that Long Outyin really did have a relationship with Shang Guanyan, then Shang Guanyan can't escape the crime of murdering the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince sneered at Gu Jiao. Don't take everything on yourself just because you are close to the Emperor's grandson. Do you know what crime this person has committed? He tried to assassinate the Crown Prince of Great Yen, which is a capital crime. The mastermind behind him also can't escape the heavy responsibility. Gu Chongqing looked at the Crown Prince with a dignified expression. I didn't try to assassinate you. The Crown Prince said. Don't pretend. Do you dare to let someone check your injuries? Gu Chongqing took a step back. I'm not injured. The Crown Prince sneered. You'll know if you're injured or not. After that, he turned around and bowed to the king. Father, this person was stabbed by a guard in my palace with a sword. The wound is on the right side of his chest. The king looked at Gu Chongqing deeply and raised his finger. The Crown Prince was happy and said, Check the wound. The leader of the genie guard stepped forward. Gu Chongqing tried to resist, but he was mercilessly held down by the leader. The Crown Prince thought, You were stabbed by teacher. Do you think you still have the strength to resist? The leader of the genie guards pulled Gu Chongqing's lapel, but when he pulled his coat, a secret letter fell out. Gu Chongqing quickly stepped on it. The leader of the genie guards was one step ahead of him and picked up the secret letter. The leader of the genie guards opened the secret letter, took out the map and looked at it. His face suddenly changed color. The map of the Crown Prince's palace, the map of the Han family's military camp. Well done, Long Ao Tian, you actually stole so many secret things from my hands. But you stole it really well. You never expected that I would find them on the spot. The Crown Prince only wanted to laugh 3 times. Originally, it was not easy to prove that Long Outyin and Shang Guanyin colluded. But now, with the irrefutable evidence, even if he didn't say anything, his father wouldn't believe that Shang Guanyin was innocent, right? After all, besides Shang Guanyin, who else would deliberately deal with the Crown Prince's palace? Father. The Crown Prince emotionally looked at the king. The king's eyes fell on Shang Guanyan's lowered eyebrows. What else do you have to say? Shang Guanyan lightly said. I don't anyway, you never believe me. The king flew into a rage out of shame. Did you do it? I want you to say it. Gu Chongqing quickly said. No. It's not the Crown Princess. It's my own idea. Everything has nothing to do with the Crown Princess. Your Majesty, if you want to punish someone, punish me alone. I am willing to bear all the blame. The king ignored Gu Chongqing and looked at Shang Guanyin sternly. So it's really you? Shang Guanyin turned her face away. The king's anger filled his chest. Shang Guanyin, you let me down. Gu Chongqing anxiously said. Your Majesty, it really has nothing to do with the Crown Princess. It's all my fault. The Crown Princess didn't know. The Crown Prince chuckled. You're about to die, but you still want to exonerate her. You're really loyal to my third sister. The king didn't want to see this spy again. Take him away. Execute him. Wait. Xiao Heng said. The king angrily looked at Xiao Heng. This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't blindly meddle. Xiao Heng's tone was calm. Imperial grandfather, I just have a doubt. Didn't His Royal Highness the Crown Prince clamor to check his injuries? Why didn't he continue after dropping this secret letter? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. It seems that they forgot to continue the examination. The main thing was that the evidence was irrefutable, plus Gu Chongqing himself indirectly admitted it, so it didn't matter whether they checked it or not. Xiao Heng walked step by step toward Gu Chongqing. Gu Chongqing's body dodged backward. Xiao Heng stretched out his hand, and Gu Chongqing violently broke free from the two embroidered uniform guards and hit Xiao Heng with his palm. Gu Jiao pulled Xiao Heng away with one hand and grabbed Gu Chongqing's lapel with the other, pulling it to the bottom. Gu Chongqing's bandaged chest was exposed. Gu Jiao didn't show any mercy and removed the blood-stained gauze as well. However, there was no wound on his skin. The blood on the gauze was fake. The crown prince was stunned. Wait, how could this be? Where's his injury? Xiao Heng had an expression of sudden realization. He turned his gaze to the crown prince and said bitterly, "Uncle Crown Prince, you really put on a good show. If I hadn't noticed that something was wrong in time, I'm afraid you really would have been able to get away with it. You really put in a lot of effort to frame my mother." "I didn't." The crown prince was completely stunned. He couldn't figure out what had happened. Where did Long Outyan's injury go? It couldn't be a different person. It was impossible. They had searched the state preceptor's hall, and there was no hiding place. What's more, this person looked exactly the same as Long Outyan. Even his voice was the same. How could it be a different person? Just as the crown prince's thoughts were running fast, Gu Chongqing suddenly came to the door. Using his internal force, he slammed the iron door shut. The state preceptor, Yi Qing Yuhi, and the others were all locked outside. In the secret room, only the king, Sheng Guanyan, Xiao Heng, Gu Jiao, Gu Chongqing, the crown prince, and the leader of the embroidered uniform guards were left. "What are you going to do?" The crown prince looked at Gu Chongqing vigilantly. Gu Chongqing evilly hooked up his lips. "Master, don't you see it? This rotten old man doesn't have you in his heart. The person he loves the most has always been Sheng Guanyan. Sheng Guanyan used self-injury to frame you in the palace. Didn't he see the clues? But he still wants to side with her. He wants to protect her." Today the plan was exposed. With this rotten old man's endless bias, you won't be easily forgiven. Since that's the case, you might as well go all the way. Kill all of them. Then put the blame on Sheng Guanyan's head. Xiao Heng seamlessly connected, not giving the crown prince a chance to speak. "You're crazy. Do you want to kill the emperor?" No. Unfortunately, Gu Chongqing didn't give him a chance to interrupt. "So what? Take this." Gu Chongqing pulled out his long sword and stabbed at the king. The king was still immersed in the anger of that rotten old man. This bastard actually called him a rotten old man. The long sword stabbed into the king's body. The king was shocked. However, the pain he imagined didn't come. Sheng Guanyan rushed over and blocked the sword for the king. Gu Jiao kicked Gu Chongqing away. The long sword was also pulled out from Sheng Guanyan's body. Blood splattered everywhere, mercilessly splashing on the king's face. The king's whole body froze. He almost instinctively hugged Sheng Guanyan, who fell in his arms. Sheng Guanyan coughed up blood. The monarch crouched down with her in his arms and used his hand to cover her wound. She had been pierced through, and blood was gushing out of her back and chest. She could not stop it no matter how hard she tried. The king, who was calm, began to unconsciously panic. Yener. He hadn't called this name for more than 10 years. Sheng Guanyan looked at him with her dying breath. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't want to block the sword for you. I haven't forgiven you. But you are my father. I have no mother. I can't. No father." The king's heart suddenly clenched into a ball and was in severe pain. "Yana." Sheng Guanyan's body temperature was rapidly decreasing. Her tears and blood flowed down together. "I hate you. Hate that you always don't believe me. I waited for you in the imperial tomb. For so many years. You never came to see me. I hate you, she cried sadly in the pool of blood. Most of the things in the world are only cherished when they are lost. The king had never felt Sheng Guanyan's death so clearly. He suddenly realized that he was losing her, losing his only flesh and blood with Xianyuan Hanyan. All the unpleasant memories of the past disappeared, and the only thing left in his mind was Sheng Guanyan's goodness. He hugged Sheng Guanyan in his arms. His throat couldn't help but swell with pain. "I thought you hated me, and didn't want to see me." On this side, the father and daughter were separated by life and death. On the other side, Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing were inseparable. The crown prince was dumbfounded. One after another, He was dumbfounded. Reason told him that it was fake. But everything was too real. Gu Jiao kicked Gu Chongqing again and sent him flying into the wall. Gu Chongqing was stuck on the wall for 3 seconds before he fell down. Gu Chongqing, or to be exact, Gu Chengfeng, covered his chest and madly cursed in his heart. No way, smelly girl, it's just acting. Do you have to be so realistic? Gu Jiao. Humph, I'm very dedicated. Digression, today I updated 10,000 words. Claw Claw is almost broken. I need a ticket to continue writing. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1064722825. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikago mobile version reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 773. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Jiao's literary drama is not good. It's very exaggerated and easy for people to fall out of character. But her martial arts drama is really good. Every move, every style, to their heart's content, makes people cry out in satisfaction. Genie Guard Leader. Cough cough, it seems that this feeling is not right. What are you doing? Hurry up and help. The Crown Prince finally came back to his senses. In fact, he was still somewhat confused. It's mainly because Xiao Heng and the others' acting is too good. The Crown Prince himself was almost moved. He seems to see the Emperor and Shang Guanyin have an accident. His dawn has come. He is going to ascend the throne. On the importance of actors and scripts. Of course, he hasn't completely lost his mind. He doesn't have the guts to kill his father. The Genie Guard leader received the order and rushed toward Gu Jiao and Gu Qingfeng. Gu Qingfeng's lips hooked up. Great, you came to help me. Let's kill him together. Kill the Emperor, that rotten old man. The Genie Guard leader staggered. Mother, I'm not here to help you. I'm here to kill you. If Gu Qingfeng doesn't admit it, you're not here to kill me. In the three-way melee, the Emperor's attention was attracted by Shang Guanyin. How could he care about the 3 people fighting? That's it. Kill Xiao Lulang. Gu Qingfeng caught the Genie Guard leader's sword with both hands and opened his mouth. The Genie Guard leader was mad. Stop acting. Gu Qingfeng. You saw through me. I'm indeed injured. I can't force myself to use my martial arts. I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going to treat my injuries. The Genie Guard leader's body shook. This is also possible. Gu Qingfeng dodged and pushed him away. Gu Jiao perfectly dealt with the Genie Guard leader. The next one is Gu Qingfeng. He can't be left alive. If he dies, there will be no evidence. Gu Jiao snatched the long sword from his hand and turned around to stab his waist. The blood bag that she had hidden in advance instantly burst open. Gu Qingfeng flicked his wide sleeves and stuffed a small blood capsule into his mouth. He bit the capsule and spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell straight to the ground. Died. In the end, Gu Jiao's sword was pressed against the Crown Prince's neck. Stop. Xiao Heng's expression was grave as he called out to her. Young Master Xiao, it would be better if His Highness the Crown Prince was handed over to my imperial grandfather. On the other side, Shang Guanyan's head tilted in the monarch's arms and her arms drooped down. The emperor's face is face. Yen. Gu Jiao threw her sword away and walked over quickly. She knelt down on one knee and said, Let me see. Chengfeng's fingertips touched Shang Guanyan's neck. She's still breathing. She should have fainted due to excessive blood loss. Her situation is very dangerous. The bleeding must be stopped immediately. The emperor taking the initiative to punish Shang Guanyan, and passively watching Shang Guanyin get injured were two completely different states of mind. One was that he knew in his heart that he wouldn't hurt Shang Guanyan's life. The other was that he could only leave everything to God. The emperor forced himself to calm down. "Where's the state preceptor?" "State preceptor? Open the door. Call the state preceptor in." Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng quietly exchanged a look. Xiaoheng said, "I'll see how to open the door. Xiao Darren, please find a way to stop my mother's bleeding." According to the plan, the door was unbreakable. The emperor must be immersed in this atmosphere. He must feel the anger of being betrayed by his son, the pain of being saved by his daughter, and all the debt he owed to his daughter. In this state of mind, the emperor could give the most impulsive punishment to the crown prince. "Please give her to me," Gu Jiao said to the emperor. The emperor's hands trembled as he handed Shang Guanyin, who was covered in blood, to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao put Shang Guanyin on the floor. "My clothes are wet. It's inconvenient to treat the patient's wound. Your Majesty, please lend me your clothes." The emperor took off the bright yellow dragon robe and handed it to Gu Jiao without saying a word. He was even willing to give up his precious dragon robe. The monarch was really going all out this time. Gu Jiao didn't care about the emperor's dragon robe. The emperor must pay a big enough price for Shang Guanyin, so that it would be more unforgettable. Gu Jiao tore the dragon robe. "Remember, Emperor of Great Yen, this is the evidence of your love for Shang Guanyin. When you recall it in the future, you must be moved by today's action. Hurry up and deal with the crown prince." The secret room was suffocating. "State preceptor, how do we open this door? Can you open it from the outside?" Xiaoheng stood behind the iron door and asked anxiously. In fact, the mechanism of the iron door was pulled by Gu Chengfeng. It was impossible to open it from the outside. Outside the door, Yiqing looked at the state preceptor with a complicated look. The state preceptor said, "We are trying to find a way. You can hold on for a while." Yiqing was shocked. Xiaoheng said, "Hurry up, my mother's injury is too serious. She will die soon." The state preceptor said, "I know. You go and find some tools to pry open the door." "Yes." Shifu. Yuhi's feet did not touch the ground as he left. Only Yiqing was left looking at the state preceptor in surprise. He wanted to say something but stopped. Outside the door, in addition to the death warriors and disciples of the state preceptor hall, there were more than a dozen crown princes' brocade guards. He had some doubts, so he had to wait until private to talk to his master. In the secret room, when the emperor heard that the door couldn't be opened for a while, he couldn't help but be anxious. He asked Gu Jiao, "How is she? Hasn't the bleeding stopped yet?" Gu Jiao knelt beside Shang Guanyin and tried to stop the bleeding for Shang Guanyin. Her face was also full of Shang Guanyin's blood, which looked shocking. Gu Jiao said, "Not yet, the injury is too serious. There are no medicinal materials or surgical equipment here. There is no effective way to stop the bleeding." Gu Jiao's words were the last straw that broke the camel's back. The emperor's anger toward the crown prince finally reached its peak. He coldly walked toward the crown prince. "I thought you were kind and respectful. Among all the princes, you have the most innocent heart. Even Elder Yang praised you for your good words and actions. You never forget the cleavage. You are neither the eldest son nor the first son. I resolutely set you as the crown prince of the Great Yin. Over the years, I know you have played some political games in the open and in the dark. I allowed you to cultivate your own forces and turned a blind eye to your efforts to win over the aristocratic families. I know you can't be a scheming and opinionated emperor. As long as you don't go too far, you can use the appropriate means. But Zhen never thought that Zhen's indulgence would actually grow your ambition. You are not satisfied with being the crown prince, are you? You want to kill the emperor. You want to ascend the throne as soon as possible." The emperor's aura was released. The crown prince's legs went soft and he knelt on the ground. "Father, I didn't kill the emperor. I also don't know what's going on with Long Out Yin. Father, if you don't believe me, please summon Pang Hai. Pang Hai can prove that he colluded with Xiao Lulang first, then go to my mansion." The emperor coldly pointed at the dead Gu Chengfeng on the ground. How can it be so coincidental that he met Xiao Lulang when he was being hunted? The crown prince was startled. The emperor flicked his sleeves and withdrew his hand. His words were like ice. Do you really think I'm old and muddle-headed that I can't see through your little tricks? It was you who purposely led this person to save Xiao Lulang, and let him get close to Xiao Lulang. He often came to the Imperial Preceptor Hall to visit Xiao Lulang. Coincidentally, Yinar and Qing also lived in the Qilin Hall. Thus, there was a false impression that he was in close contact with the deposed crown princess and the emperor's eldest grandson. Your arrangements were really exquisite. Even the Imperial Preceptor Hall's disciple became your witness. The crown prince was simply stunned. Gu Jiao was also quite surprised. She couldn't tell that the emperor's imagination was so strong. Xiao Heng's talent in writing scripts couldn't have been inherited from his family, right? Father, I really didn't. You must believe me. Today's matter was not done by me. I didn't know anything. The emperor obviously didn't believe him. Gu Jiao made an O sound. The great Yin emperor was really paranoid. However, speaking of which, if he wasn't paranoid, he wouldn't have destroyed the Xianyuan clan because of a mere prophecy or two. Everything in the world is a double-edged sword. The crown princess and the Xianyuan clan were once hurt by the emperor's paranoid nature. Now it's your turn. The heavenly law is good for reincarnation. The emperor looked at the crown prince in disappointment. He held back his monstrous anger and heartache. Your virtue is unworthy of your position. You can even do things like killing your father and killing the emperor. It's my fault that I didn't see the big picture at that time. That's why your ambition grew day by day and reached a point of no return. Fortunately, it's not too late to set things right. Zhang Dequan. Xiao Heng turned around and said blankly, Imperial grandfather, eunuch Zhang is not here. The emperor said without hesitation. Then you record it. Xiao Heng nodded blankly. Yes. Imperial grandfather, please instruct me. The iron door was thick and heavy. It was soundproof, but for masters with internal force and strong five senses, it wasn't difficult to hear the conversation inside. When the emperor finished reading the last sentence, the crown prince's desperate cry came from the secret room. Don't, Imperial father. Yi Qing couldn't help but look at the state preceptor again. What should I do? The door can't be pried open. Huh? It's open. It's open. Of course it could be opened. Xiao Heng pulled the mechanism. He did it very carefully. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was he who pried open the iron door. But Yi Qing clearly knew that this iron door couldn't be pried open with tools. The imperial grandson and Xiao Lulang thought that locking it from the inside would prevent them from breaking in, but in fact there was a main mechanism outside the iron door. A gentle pull could make the iron door collapse instantly. This was the main mechanism that only Yi Qing and the state preceptor knew. Yi Qing wanted to ask his master, why didn't he open the door? But in the end he didn't ask anything. He was his master's disciple. He only needed to believe in his master and follow his master. After everyone had entered the secret room, Gu Jiao said without changing her expression, all of you can leave. It's not easy for her to move around. I'm going to stitch her up here. Your Highness Zhongsun, please go to my room and bring my medicine box over. Okay. Xiao Heng said. State Preceptor. The emperor looked at the state preceptor. Gu Jiao was really worried that this guy would say, let this lord take a look. Then she would be exposed. The state preceptor said, Your Majesty, let's leave first. When the emperor heard him say this, he didn't insist on letting the state preceptor treat her. After all, the last time Shang Guanyin was seriously injured, it was Xiao Lulang who pulled her back from the gates of hell. Xiao Liulang's medical skills seemed to be above the state preceptor. The group of people went out of the secret room. Xiao Heng took Gu Jiao's small medicine box and then went out of the secret room. He had a reason to stay inside, but it was safer for him to stay outside. First, to prevent someone from breaking in, and second, to deal with Gu Qingfeng's body. The emperor's eyes were about to crack, and his headache came again. Xiao Heng supported him and said with concern, Imperial grandfather, you go to the side room to rest first. I will take care of things here. The emperor nodded and went to the side room diagonally opposite. Xiao Heng called his coachman and asked him to find a place to bury the body. In the secret room, Shang Guanyin fell asleep. In order to achieve the effect of excessive blood loss, Shang Guanyin took a little medicine, which can reduce the body temperature and weaken the pulse. The side effect is drowsiness. It's just that Gu Jiao didn't expect her to really fall asleep. How big is this person's heart? Shang Guanyin. Don't you need strength to cry? Gu Jiao first took away the blood bag and pork props from Shang Guanyan's body and changed her into dry clothes. Then she took out the small medicine box and put it in the groove on the wall. Today's matter was a trap from beginning to end. From the moment Gu Changqing was seriously injured and went to Gu Jiao, he decided to use his injury to do one last thing for Gu Jiao. He wanted to pretend to assassinate the crown princess and frame the crown prince. After all, everyone knew that he was the crown prince's aide, and he also participated in the selection as a Han family's child. Even if the crown prince wanted to say that he was a spy, no one would believe it. But after several people thought about it, they felt that there was a flaw in this method. Gu Changqing had entered and left the state preceptor hall, and the disciples of the state preceptor hall recognized him. Peng Hai also knew that Gu Changqing had saved Xiao Lulang. Gu Changqing met Xiao Lulang first, and then went to seek refuge with the crown prince. No matter how they looked at it, it was more like they had planted Gu Changqing as a spy in the crown prince's palace. After thinking about it, Xiao Heng had a new plan in his heart. He asked Xiao Jiao to bring a letter and call Gu Qingfeng over. Gu Qingfeng's speed must be fast. He must dress up as Gu Changqing before the crown prince forcibly searched the state preceptor hall. He was Gu Changqing's younger brother, so his facial features were similar. With the help of Gu Jiao's imitation makeup, people who were not familiar with him would not be able to see the difference. Apart from the important factor of Gu Qingfeng, there were two other keys to the success of this plan. The first was to lure away the death warriors guarding the secret room. Although Xiao Heng didn't know martial arts, with his identity as the crown prince, it was not a problem for him to trick two death warriors. The old chancellor's disciple was just that amazing. After the death warriors were lured away, Gu Jiao brought Gu Changqing and Gu Qingfeng into the secret room. She took out a small medicine box and had Gu Changqing lie in the operation room. That place was a completely different dimension, so after taking away the medicine box, no one would be able to see it anymore. As for Gu Qingfeng, he was left in the secret room. Due to the lack of time, Gu Jiao didn't have time to lock the door properly. She was really worried that the state preceptor would see through the clues and guess that she was the one who did it. In order to clean up the mess for her, he would trick the monarch to leave. Why did she think that the state preceptor would cover for her? This was something she also couldn't understand. He was clearly a very cunning person. Yet she was worried that he would come help her. This was truly a strange kind of worry. Fortunately, the state preceptor didn't let Yi Qing cover for her. Only then could the later plan be carried out smoothly. And the second key to success was the monarch. According to the original plan, they had to make a big fuss with the crown prince in the Qilin Hall. Only when the situation couldn't be resolved would the monarch be alerted. Who would have thought that the monarch would actually come himself? It was at least half an hour earlier than expected. Don't underestimate this half an hour. The earlier the plan was completed, the earlier Gu Jiao could enter the operation room to rescue Gu Changqing. They were racing against time with the King of Hell. What the little princess unintentionally fought for was the hope of Gu Changqing being saved for them. DDD. A cold mechanical sound came from the instrument. Gu Jiao walked over. Gu Changqing, who had already changed into a hospital gown, was weakly lying on the operation table. He was seriously injured and his consciousness was already blurred. However, the moment Gu Jiao walked towards him, he seemed to have sensed something and slowly opened his heavy eyelids. He was wearing an oxygen mask and didn't have the strength to speak. Don't speak. Gu Jiao noticed his breathing. You have to conserve your strength. Also, I'm going to perform the operation on you. After she finished speaking, she prepared to anesthetize Gu Changqing. However, she discovered that there was no anesthetic in the medicine cabinet. She suddenly remembered that Gu Changqing had a rare anti-anesthetic physique. The small medicine box had already judged him, so it wouldn't prepare anesthetic for him. Last time at the border, she had to stitch him raw. However, it wasn't so serious last time. He was able to endure it. Gu Jiao suddenly felt that the scalpel in her hand had become heavy. It was as heavy as 1,000 pounds of gold. She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Gu Changqing's heart rate and blood pressure began to drop rapidly. A red line appeared on the instrument, and the alarm sounded. Gu Jiao frowned. Only then did she discover that Gu Changqing's injuries were more serious than the previous diagnosis. Gu Changqing had been using the last of his internal energy to stabilize his injuries. He had been pretending that it wasn't that serious. He didn't have 2 hours to wait. He wouldn't be able to hold on for more than an hour. Gu Jiao tightened her grip on the scalpel. Why did you do this? If she had known that his injuries were so serious, she wouldn't have agreed to the plan to overthrow the crown prince. She would have directly performed the operation on him. After all, the crown prince wouldn't be able to find them. Gu Changqing looked at his sister weakly. His pale lips curled up slightly. You want to send little Jing Kong home. I want to send you home too. Even if I fall, I want to become a brick under your feet and pave the way for you home. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more fully. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/896422_8964286/1064527071. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. mzhhbqg.com. Chapter 774. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are available here. In the middle of the night, the crescent moon hung high in the sky. Renshou Palace was silent. Jiao Jiao. On the phoenix bed, Empress Dowager Zhuang woke up with a start. She opened her eyes and saw the familiar top of the bed. She was in a trance for a moment. Empress Dowager, what's wrong? Eunuch Qin, who was on duty outside the door, heard the movement. He pushed the door open and came to Empress Dowager Zhuang's phoenix bed. He lifted the curtain and hung it with a hanging hook. This summer was not as hot as previous years. In addition, there was an ice basin in the bedchamber. Eunuch Qin came in and felt cool, but Empress Dowager Zhuang was sweating. Empress Dowager Zhuang was panting in shock. Eunuch Qin looked at her worriedly. Empress Dowager, did you have a nightmare again? Did you dream of Miss Gu again? I just heard you call Miss Gu's name. Empress Dowager Zhuang lifted the thin silk quilt. Eunuch Qin knew that she wanted to get out of bed and quickly reached out to help her. Empress Dowager Zhuang sat up with his help. Eunuch Qin wanted to kneel down to help her put on her shoes. She waved her hand. It's okay. In Baishui Alley, no one served her. She had to work. She was used to it. Empress Dowager Zhuang walked to the window with her shoes on. Eunuch Qin put down the curtain and walked over to open the window. He lit a piece of incense that Gu Jiao made before she left. Empress Dowager Zhuang looked at the stars in the sky and the lonely crescent moon. She sighed. I've been gone for so long. I don't know how things are over there. Did Gu Yan survive? Eunuch Qin smiled. Young Master Gu is blessed by the heavens. He will be able to turn misfortune into blessing. What's more, he has Miss Gu and Lord Xiao by his side. Empress Dowager, are you still worried about their abilities? Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes. The Yen Kingdom is an unshakable mountain. A person's ability is small and ridiculous in front of this mountain. But even so, these two children will not give up, right? Empress Dowager. What was she talking about? Why did he not understand? Empress Dowager Zhuang said faintly, a mayfly trying to shake a tree. How ridiculous is that? The more Eunuch Qin listened, the more confused he became. Empress Dowager Zhuang looked in the direction of the Yen Kingdom. I have been dreaming of bad things these days. Eunuch Qin asked respectfully, "What did you dream of?" Empress Dowager Zhuang said with lingering fear, "I dreamed that Jiao Jiao fell in a pool of blood on the land of the Yin Kingdom, and could never return to my side." Eunuch Qin hurriedly said, "You're too worried about Miss Gu. What you think about in the day, you dream of it at night. What's more, dreams are the opposite of reality. Seeing blood in a dream, unexpected wealth in a dream." Empress Dowager Zhuang nodded thoughtfully. "It seems that there is such a thing." Eunuch Qin smiled and said, "How can I coax you?" Empress Dowager Zhuang still stared into the distance. "I remember telling you that before I was 16, I was the legitimate daughter of the Zhuang family. After 16, I was the Empress of the Zhao Kingdom. At 40, I became the Empress Dowager of the Zhao Kingdom. I have been living for the Zhuang family, the imperial court, and the Zhao Kingdom all my life. At this age, I don't have many years left to live. I want to live for myself." Eunuch Qin was scared by these words and hurriedly said, "Empress Dowager, you have to live a long life." Empress Dowager Zhuang said calmly, "I don't want to live a long life. I just want my Jiao Jiao back." Clearwater Alley. The old chancellor finished writing the last memorial and put it on the table with an ink stone. He took a deep breath and said, "There should be no more, right? What should be explained has been explained clearly. But even if it was not explained clearly, it doesn't seem to be a big problem. I am not the only one in the imperial court." He was good at the study of thick black in the officialdom. When it came to dealing with people and things, he alone was better than thousands of soldiers and horses. But to help the emperor govern the country, he still needed someone like Grand Secretary Yuan. "If I have neglected anything, old Yuan will naturally think it over for His Majesty. There is no need for me to worry about this." As the old chancellor spoke, he took out a bag that had been packed a long time ago from the cabinet. Finally, he picked up the document that took more than a month to successfully forge. Facing death calmly, he said, "Aheng, Master has come to find you." He carried the bag and left the room. Thunder rumbled in the sky. It seemed that it was going to rain. He had to quickly go to the relay station. The carriage had already been prepared there. He removed the latch and carefully opened the courtyard door. A flash of lightning appeared, illuminating the old lady's small and gloomy figure at the door. The old chancellor was scared out of his wits and almost went to see the previous emperor on the spot. The old chancellor quickly pulled his 3 souls and 7 spirits back into his body and angrily said, "Zhuang Jins, what are you doing?" Zhuang Jin said expressionlessly, "I also want to go." The old chancellor's eyes flashed and hid the bag in his hand behind his back. Go, go, go. Go where? Go where? I don't understand what you are saying in the middle of the night." Zhuang Jins carried the bag in one hand and raised the kitchen knife in the other hand. Her eyes were full of murderous intent. "Are you bringing me or not? If not, I will kill you." Old Chancellor. Great Yan Imperial Tutor Hall. The monarch was angered by the crown prince. His headache was getting worse and worse. Imperial Tutor Darren had a disciple boil a bowl of tranquilizing and pain-relieving medicine for him. After taking it, the monarch fell asleep under the effect of the medicine. Gu Qingfeng, who had washed off his disguise, was pacing back and forth in the corridor outside the secret room. He didn't say anything, but he was so nervous that he bit his fingers. Xiaoheng stood quietly opposite the secret room. The people in the Imperial Tutor Hall had all left. Even the 2 men of sacrifice who were guarding the secret room were standing outside the main door of the Qilin Hall. Xiaoheng looked calm on the surface. In his heart, he was very worried about Gu Changqing's situation. However, the monarch came earlier than expected. The rescue for Gu Changqing was also carried out earlier. There should be hope for him to be cured, right? My eldest brother will be fine, right? Gu Qingfeng asked. This was the 37th time he asked. Xiaoheng answered him patiently like the 36th time. Believe in your eldest brother and believe in her. Gu Qingfeng bit his fingers and muttered, Yes, that's right. That girl can't do anything else, but her medical skills are not bad. She will definitely be able to cure my eldest brother. My eldest brother can survive. My eldest brother hasn't gotten married yet. He can't die like this. Xiaoheng didn't disturb his muttering. He looked at the dark clouds in the sky. The road they were going to take was an extremely dangerous one. It was filled with unknown dangers. Everyone could be sacrificed at any time. They were already very weak. Gu Chongqing's mishap had undoubtedly made their already weak camp even worse. They had to pay such a terrible price just to pull the crown prince off his horse. It could be foreseen that the road ahead would be very difficult. But even so, they still had to go on without turning back. After 6 hours, Gu Jiao finally came out of the secret room. The moment the iron door opened, Gu Qingfeng rushed in. "How is my eldest brother?" Xiaoheng followed closely behind. Gu Jiao took the small medicine box and closed the passage to another dimension. At first glance, the secret room returned to its previous emptiness. But Xiaoheng and Gu Qingfeng had both seen the operating room when they sent Gu Chongqing in. It was real, but it had really disappeared. This was the first time they had felt Gu Jiao's secret so clearly. Gu Jiao said, "He is in the intensive care unit. His life is not out of danger yet." It was strange. In the past, she could only see the operating room. There were several doors in the operating room. In the past, she could only open the door that connected to the secret room. Today, another door was opened. Behind the door was an intensive care unit. She guessed that with the recovery of her strength, the damaged brainwaves had also been repaired to a certain extent. This allowed her to have more connections with the small medicine box, which also allowed the small medicine box to open more dimensions. "My eldest brother will get better, right?" Gu Qingfeng had never looked at Gu Jiao with such pleading eyes. Gu Jiao said, "I will do my best to save him." Even if there was a glimmer of hope, she would not give up. "Gu Chongqing, don't give up. I don't want you to be a brick under my feet. I want to fight side by side with you. How are you?" Xiaoheng asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao shook her head. "I'm fine. Let's go out first." This was not the place to talk. Xiaoheng carried the sleeping Shengguan Yin out of the secret room. Gu Jiao had to go back to the room to change her clothes before coming in. Gu Chengfeng was the last one. He looked at Gu Jiao's obviously delicate and slender back, but it seemed to be full of endless power. He thought of her incomprehensible secrets. He opened his mouth and stopped her. Are you a god in the sky?" Gu Jiao paused her footsteps, half turned her head, and looked at the shadow on the ground. "Maybe I'm just a demon." Gu Qingfeng froze. "This road is very dangerous. I'll go alone. Don't come near me. Don't make any more sacrifices." "It doesn't matter." Gu Qingfeng clenched his fists and looked at her back. "Whether you're a human or a ghost, a god or a demon, it doesn't matter. You're not afraid?" Gu Jiao stopped and asked him. Her ability and her knowledge were not something that people in this space-time could understand. It was easy for people to regard her as a monster. Gu Qingfeng's heart was terrified, but his mouth didn't admit it. "How can a demon be injured? It also bleeds the same blood as us." "Gu Jiao, is it?" Gu Qingfeng coughed softly. "Hey, big brother is injured. I'll protect you from now on." Gu Jiao continued to walk forward, faintly pulling her lips. "Beat me first." Gu Qingfeng's face darkened. "Digression, if you don't get double at the end of the month, you don't need to keep the monthly ticket. You can throw it away now." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/106450650615. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. mzhbqg.com. Chapter 775. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that you can't find online can be found here. Gu Jiao first went to Xiaoheng's place to see little Jing Kong. The two little kids had played for the whole night, and were so tired that they fell asleep. Because the monarch's headache had flared up and he was resting in the side room of the Qilin Hall, the young princess didn't return to the palace. The two little kids fell asleep on the bed. Gu Jiao bent down and touched little Jing Kong's forehead, then touched the young princess's forehead. She said softly, "Thank you, Light Shui." If the young princess hadn't brought the monarch to Gu Chongqing in advance by a freak combination of factors, and bought an hour for Gu Chongqing would have been a cold corpse by the time they finished fighting with the crown prince. Although Gu Chongqing wasn't out of danger yet, at least she had a chance to save him. The young princess naturally couldn't hear what her teacher was saying. She was sleeping very soundly. Her small mouth opened and closed, and she was happily snoring. Gu Jiao returned to her room. She fetched water from the side room to wash her hair and shower, then changed into a set of dry clothes. Just as she fastened her belt, there was a knock on the door. "It's me," Xiaoheng said. Gu Jiao walked over and opened the door for him. She had just taken a bath and was wearing loose pajamas. It was late at night, and her black hair was casually tied up with a cloth towel. A strand of black hair slipped out and drooped on the left side of her face. The black hair was as black as ink, and the water droplets on the ends of her hair seemed to be falling but not falling. Her skin was crystal clear and delicate, and the red birthmark on her cheeks was as beautiful as a peach. Xiaoheng really just came to see her, but this scene gave him a huge impact. His breathing stopped, and his throat moved. Gu Jiao lowered her head and looked at her clothes. She was wearing them very well. Nothing was exposed. Xiaoheng cleared his throat and forced himself to calm down. He handed her a bowl of hot ginger soup to cover up his gaffe. "The kitchen just made this ginger soup. You were drenched in the rain just now. Drink some to avoid catching a cold." "Oh." Gu Jiao reached out to take the ginger soup. "I'll do it," Xiaoheng said, then paused. "Is it convenient for you to come in?" "Sure." Gu Jiao stepped aside and gestured for him to enter. Xiaoheng brought the ginger soup into the house. Gu Jiao had just taken a bath in the side room. The air was filled with the cold fragrance of the Chinese honey locust flower, and her enchanting body fragrance. Xiaoheng had to expend a great deal of effort to prevent himself from being distracted. Gu Jiao opened the window. The rain had stopped, and the smell of moist soil and grass came from the courtyard. It was refreshing. "Drink the ginger soup," Xiaoheng said. "Okay." Gu Jiao walked over and sat down on the stool. She picked up the bowl and drank the brown sugar ginger soup. "Did you add sugar?" "Didn't you?" Xiaoheng's gaze swept over her flat stomach. He said calmly, "Yes, I added a little." Gu Jiao's period was coming, but she didn't remember it. Gu Jiao said, "Oh, well," she remembered it again. Xiaoheng moved the stool and sat down in front of her. "How's your injury?" Gu Jiao reached out her hand. "It's been a long time." Her injury healed very quickly. The flesh on her palm that was badly mangled by the rains had already scabbed and fallen off. She didn't feel anything during the operation. "Your leg," Xiaoheng said again. During the day, her legs were so weak that she had to sit in a wheelchair. A person could stimulate infinite potential in a critical moment, but after that, she would feel twice as exhausted and weak. Gu Jiao looked at her legs that suddenly didn't listen to her. She frowned. "It's fine if you don't say it. Now that you mention it, it's a little bit." Xiaoheng didn't know whether to be angry or laugh. He bent down and put Gu Jiao's leg on his lap. His slender fingers gently kneaded her leg. He rubbed it so comfortably that Gu Jiao couldn't help but squint her eyes in enjoyment. She was like a kitten that wanted to yawn after being stroked. Xiaoheng looked at her and smiled. He thought of something and stopped. Gu Jiao noticed his expression and asked, "Do you have something to ask me?" Xiaoheng thought for a moment and nodded. "Indeed. I have some doubts." Gu Jiao said, "It's about the operating room?" Xiaoheng said, "That's right." Gu Jiao could almost guess that what she showed today was beyond the knowledge of this time and space. It was a miracle that they didn't ask her on the spot. Gu Qingfeng couldn't help but ask when he entered the secret room for the second time. He was more powerful and had been holding back until now. "What do you think?" Gu Jiao asked. Xiao Heng thought of the sentence that he heard in the corridor. Gu Qingfeng asked if she was a god. He said, I almost thought that you were a fairy in the sky and used the magic of the 9 palaces in the sky. Gu Jiao smiled. It's actually not magic. It's science. Xiao Heng was slightly stunned and looked at her in confusion. Science. Gu Jiao chose her words carefully and said, there are many dimensions in the universe, and each dimension has its own space. Maybe there is a car in front of us, but because of the different dimensions, we can't see each other. Xiao Heng didn't quite understand. However, he had read an entire book of the Yan Kingdom and received a lot of knowledge in the field of mathematics that didn't belong to this time and space. Compared to Gu Qingfeng, who couldn't digest such information at all, his acceptance level was much higher. Can you tell me about it? He was full of curiosity. Gu Jiao said, of course. Let me think about it. Where should I start? The difference between them was not their identities in 2 different time and space, but their philosophical and scientific worldviews. Gu Jiao decided to start with the origin of the universe, the Big Bang. She tried to omit those professional words, and described a unique cosmic feast to him in a simple tone, as if she was telling a story to a baby. Even so, Xiao Heng still had a lot of things that he couldn't understand immediately. He secretly remembered it. He wasn't the kind of person who would deny the existence of something if he hadn't seen it. Compared to the 8-legged essay of the imperial examination, what Gu Jiao said aroused his strong interest. There are also people who don't agree with the theory of the Big Bang, Gu Jiao said. What do you think? Xiao Heng asked. It doesn't matter. I'm not interested anyway, Gu Jiao said. Xiao Heng was speechless. You can remember so much even if you're not interested. If you're interested, won't you be heaven-defying? Gu Jiao looked at him in deep thought and said, that's it for today. Digest it well. I'll continue with it another day. Okay. Xiao Heng nodded. Gu Jiao said, I should go see Gu Changqing. Right, there's something I don't quite understand. Xiao Heng asked, what is it? Gu Jiao paused and said, Gu Changqing said that the crown prince. No, he's not the crown prince anymore. Sheng Guanqi already knows that I'm not the real Xiao Lulang. Why didn't he expose me in front of the king? Xiao Heng also carefully analyzed this point. He said, because exposing you only proves that you're a bad person. It can't wash away his crime of regicide. These are 2 completely different things. Even if he insists that you're a spy sent by Sheng Guanyin, where's the evidence? If he can't come up with evidence, it'll become another empty slander against Sheng Guanyin. Gu Jiao suddenly realized, so that's how it is. Xiao Heng then said, there's another important reason. You don't have a strong backer. It's more advantageous for the Black Wind cavalry to fall into your hands than the other aristocratic families. It'll be easier for him to get it back in the future. Gu Jiao snorted. So he's actually using me. Sheng Guanqi is more scheming than I thought. Xiao Heng tidied up the strand of black hair on her temple and looked at her tenderly and firmly. He will understand one day that you who he despises are his most unshakable enemy. Speaking of enemies, Gu Jiao frowned. The crown prince has a master who can hurt Gu Changqing. Gu Changqing has never seen him before. It's very strange. Xiao Heng pondered for a moment. It's indeed strange. Since that person is so powerful, why didn't he participate in this selection? He should be a more suitable candidate than Gu Changqing. Gu Jiao touched her chin. I'll find an opportunity to go to the crown prince's palace to investigate. I'll go, Xiao Heng said. I'm the crown prince's grandson. When the king wakes up, I'll find an excuse to go to the crown prince's palace and see who the person who hurt him is. The news of Sheng Guanqi being deposed of the crown prince spread to the imperial palace that night. Imperial concubine Han was copying Buddhist scriptures in her room. When she heard this bad news, the brush in her hand fell onto the Buddhist scriptures that she was halfway copying. The Buddhist scriptures on the paper were instantly destroyed. Imperial concubine Han sat down on the cushion and turned her head to look coldly at the little eunuch kneeling at the door. Repeat what you just said to me again. What happened to my son? The little eunuch hit the ground with his forehead and stammered on the ground. Replying to master, The second prince tried to assassinate the king in the state preceptor hall. The king was furious and punished. The second prince was deposed of the second prince's position as the crown prince. Imperial concubine Han crushed the Buddhist scriptures in her hand into a ball. Nonsense! How could the crown prince try to assassinate the king? The little eunuch said in fear. This servant just heard the news. Imperial concubine Han sternly said, Go! Call the people around the crown prince. Yes, yes. The little eunuch scrambled out. There's no need to call, this matter is true. Accompanied by a deep voice, a man dressed in a black cloak walked out of the night. Imperial concubine Han winked at the head eunuch beside her. The head eunuch understood and took the two trusted palace maids out of the hall and closed the door from the outside. Imperial concubine Han glanced at the man. Her expression was not as disdainful as when she was in front of the servants. But after all, such a big matter had happened, so she couldn't give a good face. You're here, she lightly said. What's going on? The black-robed man sat down cross-legged opposite her. It's a troublesome guy. Imperial concubine Han was slightly surprised. There aren't many people who can make you feel troublesome. The black-robed man slowly sighed. It's the crown prince's aide. This matter can be considered as my negligence. I couldn't kill him with a sword and let him escape. The crown prince went to catch him, but he fell into Shang Guanyan's trap. Imperial concubine Han asked, Was it done by Shang Guanyan? The black-robed man lightly said. It could also be the imperial grandson. After all, both mother and son were there. It wasn't a flawless plan, but it was calculated to the extreme. In addition, the imperial preceptor hall also played a very interesting role in this incident. Imperial concubine Han frowned. What do you mean? The black-robed man said. With the status of the imperial preceptor, he could have stopped the second prince from entering the imperial preceptor hall to search, but he didn't do so. I think he did it deliberately. Imperial concubine Han said in disbelief. You mean the imperial preceptor colluded with Shang Guanyan? That's impossible. Shang Guanyan and the Xianyuan family ended up like this because of the imperial preceptor. The black-robed man sighed and slowly said. Imperial concubine, in this world, the more impossible things are, the more unexpected they are. You are confused by the situation, but I'm a bystander, so you probably won't believe me. Even if the emperor slightly suspects the role played by the imperial preceptor hall, I'm afraid he won't abolish the second prince's crown prince position on the spot. After imperial concubine Han calmed down, she coldly snorted and said, So what? Can the imperial preceptor hall's hands reach this imperial concubine? This imperial concubine doesn't care what kind of deal Shang Guanyan made with the imperial preceptor behind his back. As long as she dares to restore her status as the imperial concubine, this imperial concubine will have a way to deal with her. The black-robed man kindly advised. Shang Guanyan is different from more than 10 years ago. Imperial concubine can't be careless. Imperial concubine Han disdainfully said. She's just an imperial concubine. Even her imperial mother, Xianyuan Hanyan, was defeated by this imperial concubine. Even the empress couldn't defeat this imperial concubine. Does she think she's so great? The black-robed man raised his teacup. Imperial concubine's skill is worthy of being the first in the 6 palaces. Imperial concubine Han sneered. This imperial concubine has never lost. The moon was bright and the stars were few. A shabby carriage arrived at the gate of the outer city of Chengdu with a clanging sound. The guard stopped the carriage. Stop. Who is it? The coachman stopped the carriage. A little old man with a serious face and a hint of a saint's aura lifted the curtain of the carriage and handed over the document in his hand. Little brother, please make an exception. We are in a hurry to enter the city. The guard opened the document and looked at it. Are you the master of Lingbo Academy? Why are you out of the city? The little old man smiled and said, I went back to my hometown to visit my relatives. The gate is closed. Another guard in the city yelled. Generally, when the gate was closed, no one was allowed to enter the city. The little old man gave him a money bag. The guard weighed it and was very satisfied with its weight. He put the money bag into his arms without leaving a trace and said with a solemn expression, "A lot of things have happened in Chengdu recently. Those who come to Chengdu have to be strictly checked. It's reasonable to check your travel permit to return home, but the guard who checked the travel permit got off duty a quarter of an hour ago. But I see that you're old and it's inconvenient for you to sleep outside, so I'll make it easy for you. Wait, who else is in the carriage?" The little old man said with a calm expression. "It's my wife." The guard glanced at the curtain. He saw a plainly dressed old lady holding a jar of candied fruits and nibbling on them. "What are you looking at?" The old lady glared at him fiercely. The guard was stunned by the scolding. They want to check the household register. Are they a couple just because they say so? At this moment, the old lady's back was itchy and she wanted to scratch it. As soon as she raised her hand, the guard saw the little old man beside her and reflexively covered his head. The guard was speechless. She wouldn't be able to do this without being oppressed for decades. There was no need to check. If they weren't a couple, he would chop his head off. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896426/1064311160. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 776. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. At this moment, Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng did not know that their great-aunt and son-in-law had already entered the city in a small broken carriage that was leaking wind and rain. After Xiaoheng returned to his room, Gu Jiao tied her already dry hair into a single bun on top of her head, and then went to the secret room. It had to be said that Xiaoheng's skills were very good. Her legs really were not as sore as before. Gu Jiao put the small medicine box into the groove, and changed into sterile clothes before entering the intensive care unit. The flow of time in the 2 dimensions was the same. 2 hours passed in the outside world and 2 hours passed in here. However, the place where the date was displayed on the major instrument seemed to be broken. Only the time could be seen. Right now it was 1:39 in the morning. Gu Chongqing wore an oxygen mask, and his body was covered in tubes as he lay on the bed without any temperature. The room was very quiet. Only the soft mechanical sounds of the instruments could be heard. Gu Jiao could clearly hear each of his heavy breaths, which were difficult and unable to exert any strength. That person's sword energy had shattered his internal energy. All of his internal organs had been damaged and half of his meridians had been broken. She had given him the best medicine, but it still could not guarantee that he would be out of danger. Beep. The door behind her opened. It was the state preceptor wearing sterile clothes who calmly walked in. "How did you get in?" Gu Jiao asked. She clearly remembered that she had locked the metal door from the inside. "The door can be opened from the outside," the state preceptor said as he walked in front of the bed. If it could be opened from the outside, then did he deliberately not come in during the day to interrupt the king's punishment of the crown prince? This guy was really strange. He was clearly one of the perpetrators of the Xianyuan family, but he repeatedly helped her, someone related to the Xianyuan family. The state preceptor looked at the unconscious Gu Chongqing and said, "Go rest. I'll guard here tonight." Gu Jiao did not move. Perhaps the state preceptor had sensed Gu Jiao's distrust towards him, so he slowly opened his mouth. "He came to look for me because of you." Gu Jiao's eyes flickered. The state preceptor continued, "He came to the Yin Kingdom to cure your illness. It's not your fault that he became like this. You don't have to blame yourself. You've also risked your life for him." As he spoke, he turned to look at Gu Jiao. Coincidentally, Gu Jiao was also looking at him. Gu Jiao's eyes were full of confusion. She obviously didn't know what he was talking about. The state preceptor then said, "When we killed the heavenly wolf at the frontier of Zhao country, the heavenly wolf was killed. You knew that you were no match for Sirius, but you still wanted to get rid of this number one enemy for Gu Changqing. In the end, you almost died in the hands of Sirius and even contracted the plague." Gu Jiao retracted her gaze and stared at Gu Changqing. She whispered, "Why did he even tell you this?" The state preceptor explained with a good temper, "I need to know your past, the people and things you came in contact with before, and after every time you lost control. The more detailed, the better. In this way, I can give the most accurate diagnosis." Gu Jiao asked, "Have you diagnosed it?" The state preceptor shook his head. "No, your situation is very complicated and special. But..." He paused when he said this. "But what?" Gu Jiao looked at him. The state preceptor said, "I've met a few people who are similar to your situation in some aspects." Gu Jiao said, "Why do you speak in such a roundabout way?" The state preceptor coughed softly. "It's a little similar to your situation, but not exactly the same. They will also lose control, mostly when fighting. The reasons for losing control are different. Some are provoked by anger in their hearts, and some are in a life-threatening situation. When they don't lose control, they are no different from normal people." Gu Jiao thought for a moment. "Will their strength increase after losing control?" The state preceptor said, "Yes, but not as much as you. That's why I said that your situation is similar, but not exactly the same." It was indeed different. The violent factors in her body were always there, but she had already gotten used to their existence. It was like a person who was born with pain. It was normal for him to feel pain. Blood would induce her to lose control and make her suffer more. But after so many years of training, she had already controlled it very well. The uncontrollable situation was in battle. Blood, struggle, death. All the unfavorable factors added together would urge her to lose control. The state preceptor said, "I've been studying why those people lost control in the first place. I found that they were not born like this. It was all after they were poisoned. You've seen Fifth Han. What do you think of his skills?" Gu Jiao said to the point, "Not bad." "Wait, he can't be one of them, right?" The state preceptor said, "He's the most normal one. He almost never loses control. The reason why I included him is because his internal strength increased sharply after he was poisoned. The price was aging." Gu Jiao touched her chin. "So this is the reason why his hair turned white at such a young age. What kind of poison is so powerful?" The state preceptor shook his head. "I'm not sure. I haven't found out. The rest of them have lost control at least 3 times. These people are all very powerful experts. Among them, there are 2 people who are the most dangerous." He used the word dangerous. With his current status, it was definitely not an ordinary level of danger to describe them like this. Gu Jiao licked her lips curiously. "Who?" The state preceptor said faintly. "I don't know their real names. I only know their code names. One is Hun, the other is Shirtian." "What an amazing name. Even my Xiongбatian is weak in comparison." The state preceptor saw her bitter and vengeful look. How would he know that she was fussing about their code names? He thought that she was thinking about the identity of the other party. He said, "Hun is now the aide of Imperial concubine Han. If I didn't guess incorrectly, the person who injured Gu Changqing is him." "Very good. Even the real name of Gu Changqing was known." The state preceptor faintly said, "I want to remind you, don't easily find Hun for revenge. You are not his opponent. The only person who can deal with Hun is Shirtian. Unfortunately, Shirtian disappeared from Yin Empire in 21 years. No one knows where he went. Until now, there is no news. 21 years ago. Wasn't that the year when the late emperor of Zhao Empire passed away? Before the late emperor of Zhao Empire passed away, he bestowed Princess Xinyang with 4 dragon shadow guards. He also left behind a posthumous edict for Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping to get married during his mourning period. That year Long Yi had entered. Gu Jiao looked at the state preceptor and asked, "How old is Shirtian?" The state preceptor recalled in his mind and said, when he disappeared, he was still young. He was around 13 or 14 years old. It matched with Long Yi's age. Could it really be Long Yi? Gu Jiao couldn't help but think of the portrait she saw last time in book collection pavilion. The youth in the portrait was very similar to Long Yi. Gu Jiao calmly asked, "Can I see the portrait of An Hun and Shirtian?" Dawn was breaking. The monarch woke up from his sleep. In the end, he had taken medicine. The medicine was still in effect, so his whole body was dizzy. Hearing the movement, Zhang Dequan hastily got up from the mattress and quietly came to the bedside. "Your Majesty, you woke up? Does your head still hurt? Do you want this slave to go and invite state preceptor?" "No need." The monarch sat up and slowly asked, "Where is third princess and light Shui?" Third princess? The monarch called third princess before Shangguan Yin was 1 month old. Since Shangguan Yin was conferred the title of crown princess on the 1-month-old banquet, the monarch only called her 2 names. Crown princess in front of people and Yener behind people. The monarch might call her crown princess, but the monarch would never call her third princess. It seemed that the little mistress of dragons stranded in Shallow Beach was going to restore her identity as an imperial princess. Zhang Dequan hurriedly reported, "Replying to your Majesty, little princess is resting in the next room." This slave asked the wet nurse in the palace to come and take care of her. The third princess was rescued in the secret room for 6 hours before she came out. The third princess already had an old injury, and there were nails in her spine. "She also took a sword for your Majesty," Commander Xiao said. Whether she could wake up or not depends on the third princess' luck. After the monarch woke up for a moment, he felt that the punishment he gave to Shangguan Qi seemed to be too much. In the beginning, Shangguan Qi didn't want to kill him. It was the assassin who took the initiative to bewitch the crown prince to kill the monarch. But when he heard that Shangguan Yin might not survive, the monarch's anger rose again. Why didn't Shangguan Qi rush over to block the sword? His people plotted a rebellion, but Shangguan Yin was stabbed instead. He didn't say anything to stop it. Scared silly? I'm afraid he acquiesced to the actions of the assassin. The monarch began to imagine again. The more he imagined, the angrier he became. I should have crippled him earlier. The monarch went to Shangguan Yan's room. Shangguan Yan's injury was made with a prop. When the gauze was removed, the stitched wound could really be seen. But in fact, the monarch didn't really want to remove her gauze. The monarch looked at Xiao Heng, who was waiting by the bed, and sighed. Your own body is more important. Don't overwork yourself. There are palace servants here. Although it was said that there were palace servants, in fact, there was only a little palace maid. The monarch felt more guilty in his heart. Zhang Dequan. This slave is here. Zhang Dequan stepped forward and said knowingly, after this slave returns to the palace, I will immediately pick a few clever palace servants. The monarch still had to go to court, so he stood by the bed for a while and then left. Respectfully send off imperial grandfather. Xiao Heng cupped his fist and saluted. Gone. Shangguan Yin opened the mosquito net and poked her head out of the mosquito net. Xiao Heng hurriedly pressed her back into the mosquito net. Imperial grandfather, take care. She hasn't stepped out yet. Digression. For my grandaunt's appearance, I'm asking for a wave of monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/106429976. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile version reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 777. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. The monarch turned around. Xiaoheng smiled. He was smiling too much. He changed his state in a second. He was so weak and pale that he couldn't smile. Take care of yourself. Okay. The monarch nodded with a complicated expression. He put his hands behind his back and led Zhang Dequan and the wet nurse who was holding the little princess out of the Kailan hall. Gu Jiao stayed in the intensive care unit until dawn. She sat on the chair and fell asleep by the bed in the middle of the night. When she woke up, the state preceptor was gone. 2 men of sacrifice were guarding the iron gate again. They didn't react much when they saw Gu Jiao come out. What did the state preceptor say to you? Gu Jiao asked them. One of them said. The state preceptor said that no one can enter except for him and Mr. Xiao. Gu Jiao nodded and muttered to herself. That's more like it. Xiaoheng opened the door and walked to Gu Jiao. Are you tired? I asked someone to make porridge. Go and have some. Okay. Gu Jiao walked to his room with him. Where's Jing Kong? The 2 men of sacrifice were behind them. Xiaoheng said carefully. He went to school. His sister came to pick him up. He was telling Gu Jiao that little Jing Kong was safe with Gu Qingfeng. Gu Jiao was relieved. She went to Xiaoheng's room to have a bowl of porridge. Although the summer was hot, she was exhausted. She still had a good appetite. She ate a big meat bun. Where's the little princess? She asked. Xiaoheng said. She went back to the palace with the monarch. Also, the monarch seems to have restored my mother's identity as the empress. Xiaoheng didn't go to the imperial court, but the monarch called Shangguanyan the 3rd princess this morning. It must be true. Gu Jiao nodded in satisfaction. That's great. After paying such a huge price, it wasn't just to depose the crown prince. First, she would restore her status as the empress. The next step would be to scheme for the position of the crown princess. Speaking of this, Gu Jiao suddenly remembered the conversation with the state preceptor in the ICU in the middle of the night. She took the handkerchief, wiped her mouth, and said to Xiaoheng, You don't need to find an excuse to go to the crown prince's mansion. I already know who stabbed Gu Changqing. He's imperial concubine Han's advisor, a very powerful expert. People call him An Han. An Han? Xiaoheng muttered. She didn't understand what he was saying, but it sounded impressive. Did the imperial tutor tell you? He asked. Yes. Gu Jiao nodded. He also told me about 5th Master Han's secret. 5th Master Han's hair turned white because he was poisoned and aged prematurely, but it also increased his power. Xiaoheng was puzzled. Premature aging. Increase one's power? So strange. In the end, what kind of poison is it? Gu Jiao shook her head. I don't know. Later, I'll find an opportunity to ask Madame Nan. But I think, Qi Xian has been in Han family for so long, but he still hasn't cured the poison in Han Xi's body. I'm afraid the origin of this poison is not simple. In addition, the state preceptor also mentioned a person, but I don't know whether it's Long Yi or not. In those years, the late emperor left behind a total of 8 dragon shadow guards. Among them, the younger one was given to the emperor of Zhao country, and the older one was given to Princess Xinyang. These death warriors were all bought by the old Liang Wang through the underground martial arts field. At the time of purchase, both sides concluded a 10-year contract, and they were trained according to the requirements of the late emperor. And the dragon shadow guards given to Princess Xinyang were the first batch of death warriors. They were already almost trained. If they still needed to continue training in the camp, perhaps Long Yi would have been exposed. Sometimes, life was truly full of coincidences. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng talked about the matter of Sky Splitter and Han. Xiaoheng asked, Do you think Long Yi is Sky Splitter? Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, If it was only the state preceptor who said so, I might not easily think of Long Yi. But last time I saw a portrait from the 3rd floor of the library pavilion. The youth in the portrait was very similar to Long Yi. Xiaoheng was silent. 3rd floor. The entire state preceptor hall, no, to be exact, the biggest secret of the entire Yan country was there. If the person in the portrait was really Long Yi, then Long Yi really had a great origin. After a quarter of an hour, Gu Jiao was taken to the 3rd floor of the library pavilion by Yi Qing. She had obtained the state preceptor's permission to read a certain area, but she still couldn't wander around the rest of the place. She looked at the 3-meter-high big bookshelf in front of her and said in a daze, "I just want to find the portrait of Sky Splitter. There's no need to be so ostentatious." This big bookshelf that occupied almost an entire wall was something she could look at. Yi Qing pointed to the bookshelf and said, "There are portraits of Sky Splitter and In Hun in here." Gu Jiao was slightly stunned. "What do you mean?" Yi Qing explained, "Sky Splitter and In Hun never show their true faces. These are all portraits drawn by people who claim to have seen Sky Splitter and In Hun in Jianghu. They were collected here by my master." Gu Jiao squeezed out a few words from the gap of her teeth. "This so many? How long do I have to look at them? How about I draw it for you directly, and you help me identify it?" Yi Qing said again, "We have never seen Sky Splitter. You can only identify it yourself." "What the F***ck am I trying to identify?" "So even if I see the portrait of Long Yi, you can't be sure that he is Sky Splitter, right? Father and son killing each other was a scandal. If this kind of thing happened to the Emperor of Zhao Country, the Emperor of Zhao Country would definitely adhere to the concept of family scandals not being aired in public. He would suppress the news airtight, and then find another reason to punish the crown prince. The Emperor of Great Yin was different. He didn't care. As soon as he went to court, he announced that Shang Guanqi had ulterior motives, slandered Shang Guanyan, and killed his father. He also let Zhang Dequan announce the imperial edict to abolish the crown prince in public. Along with the imperial edict to abolish the crown prince, there was also an imperial edict to restore Shang Guanyan's royal status. Since then, Shang Guanyan was the third princess of Great Yin. The whole court was surprised. Although they had already received the news last night, when it really came from the throne room, it still made imperial concubine Han very angry. She was so angry that her chest was about to explode. What assassination? What slander? That person called Long Outyin is clearly a spy placed in the Crown Prince Palace by Shang Guanyan. Is His Majesty old and confused? How can he not even see such a big flaw? Last night, she had sent people to the Crown Prince Palace to understand the whole process of Long Outyin's visit to the Crown Prince Palace. Traps, all traps. "Io imperial concubine, you can't talk nonsense." The head eunuch Su Gao stepped forward in fright. "Be careful not to let other people hear." Imperial concubine Han snorted. "This is my bedroom. Who dares to spread it out?" Su Gao dryly smiled. "That's true, but it's better to be careful." Su Gao went to the Crown Prince Palace to inquire about Long Outyin. To be honest, the third princess's move was really exquisite. She could predict the emperor's thoughts. He had been in the palace for so many years, but he rarely saw anyone who could predict the emperor's thoughts. Whether the monarch punished or not, it was usually the monarch's own will. Those who took advantage of the situation and took advantage of the opportunity to trip up the victims were actually just the monarch turning a blind eye to it. They were not considered very smart. Su Gao said, "Imperial concubine, I'm afraid there's a master behind the third princess." Imperial concubine Han thoughtfully said, "What you said makes some sense. I watched Shang Guanyin grow up. She's a straightforward person and doesn't have many thoughts. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been schemed against in the past." Su Gao hurriedly said, "Isn't that so, Imperial concubine? If she has such a mind, why wait until now? She would have returned to Chengdu to compete with the second prince for the position of crown prince. Moreover, the eldest grandson's temperament is different from before. It's barely acceptable for one person to change, but for two people to change at the same time, who would believe that there's no master behind them?" Imperial concubine Han said coldly, "We must find the master behind them. I'd like to see who has the guts to go against me." Su Gao smiled proudly. "Imperial concubine, don't worry. Our people have already been sent to the state preceptor palace." Imperial concubine Han smiled. "Oh, so fast. There won't be any flaws, right?" Su Gao smiled and said, "They're all personally selected by Zhang Dequan. They're all his confidants. Even if they investigate their 18 generations of ancestors, it has nothing to do with us." Imperial concubine Han smiled coldly. It's not easy to place confidence around Zhang Dequan. I've buried so many chess pieces for so many years. I originally planned to use them in more important places. But who told Sheng Guanyan and her son to be so annoying? I'll borrow eunuch Zhang's hand to eradicate these two eyesores for me. Su Gao flattered. Imperial concubine is wise. Imperial concubine Han had already begun to imagine the fruits of victory. After the matter is done, who should I frame? I think Imperial concubine Wang Xian is good, and Imperial concubine Dongchen is also not bad. As she said this, she burst out laughing. On the other side, Zhang Dequan took 4 palace maids to the State Preceptor Palace. Gu Jiao went to the Library Pavilion, leaving only Xiao Heng in Sheng Guanyan's room. Zhang Dequan respectfully bowed to Xiao Heng, who was sitting in his seat. Your Highness Zhang-sun, the few palace maids outside are selected by this slave. They're nimble, diligent, and clever. Let them serve the 3rd princess and Your Highness Zhang-sun first. Your Highness Zhang-sun, please rest assured that their background is very clean. I know, Xiao Heng said. Zhang Dequan smiled. If there's nothing else, this slave will return to the palace first. Xiao Heng nodded. After Zhang Dequan left, Xiao Heng opened the curtain and looked at Sheng Guanyan, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed holding half of a watermelon and eating it with a spoon. Can Zhang Dequan be trusted? Sheng Guanyan ate a spoonful of watermelon ball. Oh, he's not bad. Xiao Heng said. So those people outside can stay? Sheng Guanyan thought for a moment. Keep them first. Zhang Dequan is the only person in the palace who won't harm me. Lingbo Academy. A carriage stopped in the alley diagonally across from it. This alley was originally for the students of the academy to park their carriages. Because this carriage came first, it occupied the first position. Arriving here, the coachman's task was completed. The old chancellor gave him the fare. The coachman took his reward and left with satisfaction. The old chancellor and Empress Dowager Zhuang sat in the carriage and waited. Are you sure we should wait here? Empress Dowager Zhuang asked. The old chancellor said. Jing Kong is attending classes at Lingbo Academy. When he finishes school, Ahing will definitely come to pick him up. Ahing will come even if I don't come to Jiaojiao. Summer in Yin country was hotter than in Zhao country. In addition to today's particularly hot weather, the carriage was baked into a steamer not long after. Empress Dowager Zhuang became a small steamed shrimp, sweating like rain. She leaned against the wall of the carriage, feeling hopeless. Didn't it just rain at night? How come it didn't cool down for long before it became hot again? The old chancellor picked up a fan and fanned her. He was also sweating profusely. Yin country is really hot. I don't know if the children can handle it. Empress Dowager Zhuang did not even have the strength to speak. She felt as though she had caught a heat stroke. Her legs went soft and she collapsed in her seat. The old chancellor saw that she was so hot and could not bear it, saying, There is a tea shop next door. You go to the tea shop to drink some tea. I will wait here. Empress Dowager Zhuang glared at him and weakly said, Does drinking tea not cost money? Things in Yin country were so expensive. The children definitely did not have enough money to spend. She needed to save for Jiaojiao. Of course, there was another important reason. She needed to see Jiaojiao as soon as possible. Although it might not be Jiaojiao that came to pick up Jing Kong. The two waited from morning until afternoon. It was so hot that they lost their temper. Finally, Lingbo Academy began to dismiss classes. Students wearing the academy's uniform walked out of the academy in high spirits. Empress Dowager Zhuang looked around anxiously. Why don't I see any children? Go and ask around. Has the prodigy class ended? The old chancellor went. However, since the young commandery princess had been kidnapped near the academy's vigilance had increased a lot. They were vigilant against strangers who came to inquire about information, especially about the prodigy class. The guard said sternly, You are not allowed to inquire about the academy. If you don't leave, I will report you to the officials and arrest you. There were more officials patrolling nearby. The old chancellor was an unregistered citizen. Naturally, he could not fall into the hands of the officials. He wanted to say that he was a family member of a student. However, he looked down at his shabby appearance and swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Along the way, in order not to be remembered by thieves, they dressed very poorly. Their clothes were the plainest and their carriage was the worn out. The old chancellor planned to go to the nearby shop to ask around. As soon as he turned around, he heard the guard say to his companion, "Keep an eye on that old man." The old chancellor's mouth twitched. Was he being treated as a thief? What was wrong with the Academy of Yin country? Since he did not get any information, he could only wait honestly. Don't worry. I have inquired at the inn. After school. This is the only door that can be used after school. Jing Kong will definitely come out from it. Don't interrupt. Go away. Empress Dowager Zhuang pulled his face away ruthlessly and stared at the gate of Lingbo Academy. Finally, God did not disappoint the faithful. A 10-year-old child came out. Her eyes lit up. The prodigy class is over. The prodigy class was indeed over. However, little Jing Kong and the young commandery princess were always the slowest. They received so many books that Master Lu doubted life. The young commandery princess said to her classmate, "Jing Kong, come to my house to play today." Little Jing Kong asked, "Where is your house?" "Well, over there." The young commandery princess pointed in the direction of the imperial palace, which she thought was the imperial palace. "I have played at your place so many times, but you have never played at my house." Little Jing Kong thought it was reasonable. "All right, but I have to inform Teacher Cheng first. He had tutoring with Master Cheng after school today. However, in his opinion, he could ask for leave for tutoring since he did not really want to go anyway." The two little kids carried their bags and went to Master Cheng to ask for leave. The young commandery princess put her hands on her hips and stared at Master Cheng fiercely. Master Cheng did not dare to disagree. Just now, someone was asking when the prodigy class would end. I wonder if there are thieves after the princess. For safety's sake, let's go straight to the academy to pick up the young commandery princess. Yes. A carriage that looked ordinary but was actually very luxurious drove into Lingbo Academy with special privileges granted by the emperor. It stopped directly at the gate of the prodigy class. Four imperial masters stood in a row. The wet nurse got off the carriage and took the young commandery princess's bag. "Young commandery princess, we should go back." The young commandery princess said, "Today I want to invite Jing Kong to my house to play." The wet nurse smiled. "If the young master's family is okay with it, of course." No problem, no problem. Little Jing Kong made his own decision. After all, he was not a bad brother-in-law. Brother Chengfeng could not control him. The two little kids got on the carriage. Two of the four imperial masters sat in the carriage while the other two rode on horses on both sides of the carriage. The old chancellor looked around the alley. The carriage passed by him. After another hour, the last student came out of Lingbo Academy. The guards of Lingbo Academy began to close the gate. The old chancellor was shocked. "Hey, what happened? Why did they close the gate?" He looked back at Empress Dowager Zhuang in the carriage. "Did Jing Kong just come out? Did you see them?" "No," Empress Dowager Zhuang said. She was old, but she was not blind. She was very sure that she did not miss anything. The old chancellor said suspiciously, "Could it be Jing Kong did not go to school today? Could it be that something happened to them because they did not come to Lingbo Academy?" "They." Empress Dowager Zhuang said coldly, "Shut up." The old chancellor shut his mouth resentfully. Dark clouds started to roll in the hot and humid sky. It looked like it was going to rain. The old chancellor said, "Why don't we find an inn to stay first and come back tomorrow?" Empress Dowager Zhuang said, "The gate is not closed. There is still a gap. Let's wait for a while." The aroma of meat fried with garlic floated from the restaurant next door. The old chancellor was hungry. Only then did he remember that they had been waiting for someone and had not eaten anything for a whole day. He was hungry. Since Zhuang Jins was so greedy, she must be hungry too. "I will go and buy something to eat." As he spoke, he touched his shriveled money bag and coughed lightly. He said to Empress Dowager Zhuang, "I have used up my travel expenses." He had spent all his money along the way. Empress Dowager Zhuang held the bag in her arms vigilantly. For Jiao Jiao, not a single coin could be spent. The old chancellor had no choice but to search his pockets. Finally, he found 2 knife coins that had fallen into the broken compartment of his sleeve. He was lucky. Usually, 2 knife coins could only buy 1 steamed bun. Today it was going to rain. The boss was in a hurry to close the stall, and gave the last 2 steamed buns to the old chancellor. The old chancellor gave the bigger one to Empress Dowager Zhuang. The heavy rain in Shang capital came without warning. The sky was torn open and the heavy rain couldn't wait to pour down. Mixed with the whistling wind, the stalls and carriages by the roadside were all overturned. The old chancellor held the remaining half of the steamed bun in his mouth, and hurriedly pulled the window tight. The curtain of the carriage was also put down. However, the weather was too bad. The curtain of the carriage was blown apart, and the heavy rain poured into the carriage mercilessly. The old chancellor hurriedly stood up and planned to use his thin and weak body to block the wind and rain. His hands gripped the door frame tightly, but who would have expected that the roof of the carriage would be blown away in the next second? The old chancellor couldn't open his eyes because of the rain. He went to grab the umbrella and wanted to open it to block the rain for Empress Dowager Zhuang, who knew that before the umbrella could be opened, he was blown to the ground first. This can't go on. We have to find a place to take shelter from the rain. He wiped the rain on his face and tried hard to open his eyes. He stretched out his hand towards Empress Dowager Zhuang. Come down quickly. I will catch you. It was very dangerous for 2 elderly people to be exposed to such extremely bad weather. If they were slightly careless, they might fall and never get up again. Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes had long been unable to open, so she naturally couldn't see the hand that he stretched out. She hugged the bundle in her bosom with one hand and grabbed the wall of the carriage with the other hand, moving down with difficulty step by step. She slipped and the all-powerful Empress Dowager of Zhao country sat in a puddle in a sorry state. The old chancellor asked loudly, "Are you all right?" Empress Dowager Zhuang protected the bundle in her bosom. "I'm fine." She tried to stand up but fell back a few times. The old chancellor spent a lot of effort to finally walk close to her. The old chancellor stretched out his hand to grab her arm. He had just pulled Empress Dowager Zhuang up, and before they could stand firm, the 2 of them fell to the ground with a plop. At this moment, a beggar in his early 20s suddenly rushed over from behind the 2 of them. He snatched the bundle in Empress Dowager Zhuang's hands and ran away. Travel expenses. Empress Dowager Zhuang's gaze turned cold. That was the money she brought for Jiao Jiao. She scrimped and saved along the way, and didn't spend a single banknote. In the end, it was snatched by a little thief. Empress Dowager Zhuang was angry. She didn't know where she got the strength. She didn't care about the bruises on her body and picked up the stick on the ground and threw it at the little beggar. Aya! The little beggar was hit by the stick and fell into the rain with a plop. Empress Dowager Zhuang walked with the steps of an old lady chasing away her unfilial grandson, and came to the young beggar angrily. She picked up the stick on the ground again and beat the beggar. Who told you to snatch Jiao's things? Who told you to snatch Jiao Jiao's money? Who told you to steal chickens and dogs? Who told you to not do proper things? The rain was heavy and Empress Dowager Zhuang spoke the language of Zhao country in anger. The beggar didn't understand a word, but the stick on his body was clearly hit. Aya! Stop hitting! Stop hitting! I'll give it back to you! I'll give it back to you! You damn woman! How can you be so strong? The beggar was almost beaten into a pig's head. How could he have expected that a little old lady who fell and couldn't get up would be so ruthless in beating people? She was too heavy-handed. Empress Dowager Zhuang hit him with the stick again, and almost killed his thousands of children and grandchildren. The beggar trembled and looked at the stick that fell between his legs. If the stick moved half an inch forward, he would. He looked at the old lady in front of him again, and saw that the other party's eyes revealed a strong murderous aura. He felt fear from the bottom of his heart. He didn't even dare to play tricks and threw the bag in his hand at the old lady. Taking advantage of the time when the old lady went to catch the bag, he rolled and crawled away. The bundle was blown apart, and the silver ingots inside fell to the ground with a crash. The banknotes were blown out by the strong wind, and floated all over the alley. Empress Dowager Zhuang squatted down to pick up the banknotes. The old chancellor just sprained his ankle and limped over after a long time. He looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang, who was squatting on the ground to pick up the silver and banknotes. He suddenly had mixed feelings. She was the legitimate daughter of the Zhuang family. She was born honorable and became the empress when she entered the palace. When the late emperor passed away, she became the regent Empress Dowager. She had been standing on top of the clouds all her life, and had never stooped down to pick up things from the ground. Not to mention a mere stack of banknotes. Even if a valuable antique fell on the ground, she would never take a second look at it. But now he opened his mouth. Zhuang Jin's. Empress Dowager Zhuang picked up a banknote that floated into the sewage pit and wiped it on her sleeve. When she just came to the countryside, her family wasn't rich. Jiao Jiao had to go to the mountains to dig wild vegetables and pick mountain products to sell in the market every day before dawn. In order to save 2 copper coins for the carriage, she carried the heavy mountain products and walked more than 10 miles. At that time, she was only 14. She couldn't even bear to eat a bowl of hot soup noodles outside, and only gnawed on a hard cold steamed bun in the market in the winter. But she didn't lack the silver for Liulong's school fees. She didn't lack the meat and vegetables that the family ate. She didn't eat them herself and left them for Lulang, Xiaoshun, and me. Later, when the little monk came, she spared no effort to buy things for the little monk. She only bought a pair of cloth shoes for herself, and it was with Lulang. The old chancellor was shocked. Empress Dowager Zhuang lowered her eyes and said, "If the silver is not enough, she will always be short for herself. I don't want Jiao Jiao to suffer. I don't want her to suffer at all." The old chancellor's eyes were slightly red. It was unknown whether it was for Gu Jiao or Zhuang Jin's. He squatted down. "I will pick it up with you." Both of them squatted on the ground and silently picked up the rain-soaked banknotes. Empress Dowager Zhuang picked up the banknotes and suddenly felt that someone was coming. She moved her body forward and blocked the banknotes in the puddle in front of her. A young man wearing a straw raincoat, a bamboo hat, and holding a red tasseled spear entered the alley from behind her. Empress Dowager Zhuang didn't care too much and continued to pick up the banknotes. The young man walked past her. When he reached the entrance of the alley, the young man's footsteps suddenly stopped. There were only a few banknotes left, and there seemed to be more people coming into the alley. Empress Dowager Zhuang picked up the banknotes faster. Her legs were almost numb from squatting. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind her. "Great Aunt?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/8964/2_89642_106408399. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. mzhbqg.com. Chapter 778. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all here. Empress Dowager Zhuang stopped picking up the banknotes. The rain was heavy and the wind was strong. If Empress Dowager Zhuang looked up, she couldn't open her eyes at all. She squatted stiffly on the ground in the rain, like a little old lady in the countryside picking vegetables in the ridge. She paused for a moment, and then continued to pick up the banknotes. She must have wanted to Jiao Jiao so much that she heard wrong. How could Jiao Jiao appear here in such a heavy rain? Great Aunt. It was another familiar voice. This time, the voice was directly above her head. A young man wearing a straw raincoat and a bamboo hat knelt down on one knee beside her. Empress Dowager Zhuang still couldn't raise her eyes, but she caught a glimpse of the ugly red tasseled spear, the little braid, and the big red flower. She couldn't be more familiar with it. However, Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes suddenly stopped looking up. She lowered her head and brushed her messy hair on her cheeks in the rain, trying to straighten her hair so that she didn't look so embarrassed. She also moved her feet that were numb from squatting, as if she also wanted to make a squatting posture that wasn't so embarrassing. Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at her. "Great-aunt, is it really you? Why are you here?" This time, Great-aunt's tone was no longer questioning. She was really sure that she had met the person who was least likely to appear in the Great Yin Kingdom. It was also the person she had been thinking about. The old lady suddenly felt wronged. She was robbed on the street, stuffed into a steamed shrimp in the carriage, beaten by the wind and rain, and fell down again and again, but she didn't feel wronged at all. However, Gu Jiao's great-aunt broke all her strong feelings in an instant. Her eyes turned red. She was like a child who had been bullied outside, and was finally found by her parents. Her small mouth and nose twitched. She said with a crying voice, "Why did you come so late? I've been waiting for you all day." Gu Jiao didn't know what to do. She said blankly, I just walked too slowly. I'll pay more attention next time. I won't take a carriage. I'll ride a horse, the Black Wind King." The old lady didn't understand what the Black Wind King was. She squatted on the ground with the banknotes in her hand, sobbing in grievance. "I'm not crying," she said stubbornly. Yes, Grandaunt didn't cry. Gu Jiao hurriedly took off her straw raincoat and draped it over Empress Dowager Zhuang. "Aijia doesn't need it, you wear it," Empress Dowager Zhuang said. Not only did she refuse Gu Jiao's straw raincoat, but she also took off the bamboo hat on her head. Gu Jiao stopped her. With Gu Jiao's strength, it was a piece of cake for her to stop an old lady. She tied her bamboo hat and straw raincoat tightly, making it impossible for Empress Dowager Zhuang to take them off. Seeing this, Empress Dowager Zhuang no longer made a futile struggle. She sniffed and pointed at a banknote in front of her. "This is the last one. My feet are numb." Gu Jiao went to pick up the banknote and handed it to Empress Dowager Zhuang. After Empress Dowager Zhuang took the banknote, she didn't put it away immediately. Instead, she handed it to Gu Jiao along with the rest of the banknotes in her hand. "Here, this is for you." Many years later, when Gu Jiao galloped on the battlefield, she would always recall this scene. On a rainy day, she ran for thousands of miles, squatted on the ground, and picked up the banknotes one by one, just to hand them to her in perfect condition. When she lived in the school in her previous life, she never understood why her roommate's mother would transfer several cars from the distant countryside to the city. She was so carsick, just to give a jar of pickled vegetables to her daughter who lived in the school. She thought that she understood that kind of feeling. Gu Jiao carried her grandaunt to a restaurant near the alley, and came back to carry the old chancellor. "I want 2 rooms, Gu Jiao said. The old chancellor had been pacing back and forth in front of Lingbo Academy, and had long been watched by the nearby shops. The innkeeper originally wanted to check the 2 elders' identities, but Gu Jiao directly showed the token of the Imperial Preceptor Hall. The innkeeper instantly tensed up. "Old master, old madam, please. Young master, please. Get 2 buckets of hot water," Gu Jiao ordered. The innkeeper hurriedly responded, Yes, coming right now." Empress Dowager Zhuang looked at the innkeeper whose attitude had changed abruptly. "What token do you have that is so useful?" She was worried that the children would live a hard life because of various reasons, but it seemed to be different from what she thought. "The token of the Imperial Preceptor Hall," Gu Jiao said truthfully. Empress Dowager Zhuang calmly acknowledged. At this moment, she was immersed in the excitement of being recognized by Gu Jiao and didn't realize what the Imperial Preceptor Hall was. Although the 2 elders had brought luggage, it was all wet from the heavy rain. After Gu Jiao sent the 2 elders to their respective rooms, she went to a nearby clothing store to buy a few sets of dry clothes. She had spare clothes in the carriage. Gu Jiao came to pick up little Jing Kong today, but who knew that the little guy went to the palace with the young commandery princess? Empress Dowager Zhuang's mouth twitched. Was the little monk doing so well? He could even visit the palace of the Great Yin dynasty? Then why did you use it as a weapon? Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes were very sharp. Gu Jiao scratched her little head. "I have a lot of enemies recently, so I used it for self-defense." Empress Dowager Zhuang sat in the bathtub behind the screen and calmly acknowledged. It was as if she was saying that this was the right way to open the door. She knew it was not peaceful, and she came at the right time. When Empress Dowager Zhuang and the old chancellor finished packing, Xiao Heng also came. When Gu Jiao went downstairs to buy clothes, she asked the coachman to go back to the Imperial Preceptor Hall and asked Xiao Heng to come to this restaurant. Xiao Heng didn't know it was his grandaunt and the old chancellor who came. When he entered the room and saw the two elders sitting on the armchairs, he was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. There weren't many opportunities to see Xiao Heng lose his self-control like this. Gu Jiao sat beside her great-aunt and looked at him calmly. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. Apparently, she enjoyed her husband's confused expression very much. Xiao Heng woke up from the shock after a while. He quickly went into the room, closed the door and bolted the door. "Grandaunt teacher." He greeted them in surprise. The old chancellor coughed lightly. "It's easy to expose your identity if you call me teacher." "Son-in-law." Xiao Heng changed the way he addressed him. The old chancellor lifted the teacup in satisfaction and drank a mouthful of tea with a calm expression. Xiao Heng was really shocked. He couldn't believe what he saw, but the two elders really did appear in the Great Yan's capital. Xiao Heng took a deep breath and suppressed the remaining shock in his heart. He asked the two elders, "Grandaunt, granduncle, why did you come to the Yan kingdom?" The old chancellor asked with an accent. "Are you asking for the reason or the method?" Xiao Heng said, "Don't be so picky. Before answering your question, can you tell me what happened to your face?" The old chancellor looked at the mole under his right eye and asked. This mole was originally removed by Princess Xinyang. Xiao Heng touched the mole under his eye and said, "I painted it." The old chancellor asked, "Why did you paint it?" Xiao Heng said, "I'll tell you in detail later. First, tell me why you and Grandaunt came." The old chancellor looked serious. "Isn't it because I'm worried about you? You've been gone for so long and didn't even send a letter. We've only left Zhao country for 3 months. You left a month ago and only waited for 2 months. Even the war in Jiaojiao took longer than this. What's the method?" Xiao Heng asked. The old chancellor flicked his wide sleeves and said proudly, "I forged an employment letter from Lingbo Academy." Xiao Heng was speechless. You don't have to emphasize Grandaunt. As for why the old chancellor knew what an employment letter from Lingbo Academy looked like, it was because Elder Feng had received it before. Elder Feng's talent was underestimated in Zhao country. All the academies in the Yan kingdom were fighting for him. At least 6 academies in the Yan kingdom had sent an invitation to Elder Feng, including Lingbo Academy in Chengdu. Unfortunately, they were all rejected by Elder Feng. The old chancellor had seen those documents and forged one according to his memory. However, Lingbo Academy's forgery was so good that he only succeeded after more than a month. If it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to forge it at all. Gu Jiao leaned against her grandaunt and listened to the conversation between the master and disciple. She was rarely so close to others and looked like she was leaning against her grandaunt's arm. At this moment, she wasn't the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry who fought for her life, nor was she the young doctor who saved lives. She was her grandaunt's Jiaojiao. Empress Dowager Zhuang wasn't used to being close to others, but when Gu Jiao was by her side, she could let down all her guard. Of course, she didn't hug Gu Jiao in her arms. That wasn't her personality, and didn't suit Gu Jiao's personality. The relationship between the two was beyond the superficial intimacy. It was a tacit understanding that could burn their lives for each other. This conversation was mainly between Xiao Heng and the old chancellor. Grandaunt and Gu Jiao were the audience in the room. They watched the master and disciple talk and stare at each other. They especially enjoyed this long-lost intimacy and peace. Both of them thought it was great. It was great that Grandaunt was by their side. It was great that they found Jiaojiao. "Okay, we finished talking about our business. It's time to talk about yours," the old chancellor said. He didn't mention the hardships along the way, but Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao were already having a hard time. Not to mention the two of them were old. Okay. What's the situation on your side?" The old chancellor was most afraid of suddenly being emotional, So he hurriedly urged Xiao Heng to share information about Shengdu. The situation on their side was a bit complicated. Xiao Heng didn't know where to start, so he had to start from his and Gu Jiao's current identity. What? You replaced Sheng Guanqing and became the eldest grandson of the emperor? The old chancellor was shocked. It turned out that the biggest shock wasn't him and Zhuangjin's coming to Chengdu. It was Xiao Heng's background that was the biggest shock. Xiao Heng said again, I forgot to say that Sheng Guanqing is Xiao Qing, the son of my mother and father. The old chancellor thought and said, the son of Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping? That child is still alive? Yes, Xiao Heng said. He was brought to the Yan kingdom by my mother. The old chancellor was a bit overwhelmed. Your mother is, Xiao Heng answered seriously, the former crown princess of the Yan kingdom, Sheng Guanyan. So the woman brought back to the capital by Marquis Xianping wasn't a slave of the Yan kingdom, but a princess of the royal family. Was Marquis Xianping so lucky? Empress Dowager Zhuang came from the palace after all, so she was more sensitive and receptive than the old chancellor in this aspect. Her reaction was still calm, but when Xiao Heng talked about Gu Jiao, she couldn't calm down. The foster son of Duke's Mansion, the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry, the public enemy of the top 10 aristocratic families. Empress Dowager Zhuang's mouth twitched. She knew it. How could this girl not cause trouble? Look at her. She almost turned Chengdu upside down. She did it all by herself. Xiao Heng and the old chancellor talked for a full 2 hours before they finally finished exchanging all the information. The two elders fell silent. The little ones caused trouble here and there. With too many tricks, they were already too shocked. They needed time to digest it. Although Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao had obtained quite a few victories at this stage, in the eyes of the experienced Empress Dowager Zhuang and the old chancellor, the little ones' tactics were not perfect. They acted as they pleased, lacking a tight organization and plan. Thinking back to the time when Empress Dowager Zhuang and the old chancellor fought so fiercely, it was from the court to the inner palace, from the inner palace to the officialdom. It even indirectly affected the battlefield. The two little ones' tactics were just a drop in the ocean. Empress Dowager Zhuang snorted. If you only had Aheng's tactics back then, I would have exiled you 3,000 miles away, never to return to the capital for the rest of your life. The old chancellor snorted. If you were like Jiao Jiao back then, I would have let you sit in the cold palace for a long time. Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao. You two can quarrel, but can you not drag us into it? Don't we want face? Also, you two did not need to hide your identities back then. Of course, you can fight however you want. I'll have you try changing your identities to the country of Yan. So infuriating. The young couple turned their faces away. Cough cough. The old chancellor was defeated by Empress Dowager Zhuang's death glare. Aheng, where are you living now? An hour later, a carriage entered the imperial tutor's hall. The heavy rain had just stopped, and Yu He walked over from the west side of the corridor while holding a bowl of medicine. He immediately saw Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao leading an unfamiliar couple into the Qilin hall. He was puzzled and said, Your Highness Zhang-sun, young Master Xiao they are. Xiao Heng had a calm expression and said, They are young Master Zhao's patients. They came from outside the city and had nowhere to go due to the heavy rain. Thus I made the decision to bring them in first. I will speak with Imperial Tutor later on. Yu He quickly said, No need, it's a small matter. Master has already made it clear to have Your Highness Zhang-sun treat the Imperial Tutor's hall as your own home. There's no need to be polite. After all, Your Highness Zhang-sun has never been polite with the Imperial Tutor's hall. It's not the first time you've brought those scoundrels from Jianghu to spend the night. This time, bringing two normal patients can be considered a pleasant surprise. How could Xiao Heng know that Sheng Guanqing was so indecent, and thought that the Imperial Tutor was being polite? Recently, the inner city had been very strict. Leaving the aunt and grandpa in the inn, Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao were not at ease. Only then did they temporarily bring the two elders back to the Imperial Tutor's hall. But the Imperial Tutor's hall was not a place to stay for long. At dawn the next day, Xiao Heng set out to find a suitable residence. The Qilin hall had many side rooms. Of the dozen or so rooms in the east corridor, only Xiao Heng, Gu Jiao, Shengguan little Jing Kong and a few servants lived in them. There were still quite a few rooms that were empty, because it was two in-laws. Living in two rooms was too strange. Gu Jiao only had the servants tidy up one room. The old chancellor looked at the spacious room and said nervously, That, I'll sleep on the floor tonight. Hehe. Empress Dowager Zhuang rolled her eyes and went to Gu Jiao's side. Your Highness Zhangsun. 4 palace maids who were sweeping the corridor saluted Xiao Heng in unison. Xiao Heng nodded slightly. You can go and do your work. Yes. The 4 continued to work. Empress Dowager Zhuang just walked to the door of Gu Jiao's room. She looked at the 2 palace maids and 2 eunuchs who were doing the sweeping. Her eyes fell on one of them, and she frowned slightly. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1063888110. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 779. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are available here. Xiao Heng went to Shengguan Yan's room. There were a total of 5 palace maids serving Shengguan Yan. One was the little palace maid Huan brought from Zhaoyang Hall. And the rest were the 4 people sent by Zhang Dequan this morning. These 5 people didn't know that Shengguan Yan was pretending to be sick, but because Huaner served Shengguan Yan for the longest time, Xiao Heng left her in the room. Did my mother wake up? Xiao Heng asked Huaner. Huaner bowed and said, replying to His Highness Zhangsun, the 3rd princess hasn't woken up. It seems that she didn't expose herself. She won't drop the chain at the critical moment. Xiao Heng stood in front of the bed for a while and said to Huan, well, you continue to guard her. If my mother wakes up, remember to inform me. I will be with young Master Xiao. Huaner respectfully replied, yes, His Highness Zhangsun. Shengguan Yan, who had been lying under the mosquito net all night. Leaving just like that? Gone. Son. I want to go out. Xiao Heng went to Gu Jiao's room. Empress Dowager Zhuang was storing candied fruits. She hasn't eaten for 3 days. The 15 candied fruits that she saved with great difficulty were broken in the heavy rain. Gu Jiao promised to give them to her without missing a single one. While putting the candied fruits into her new jar, she casually said, who are the 4 people outside? Xiao Heng said, the palace maids and eunuchs sent by His Majesty. Strictly speaking, they are my mother's people. Empress Dowager Zhuang asked, they were just sent? Xiao Heng said, yes, they were sent this morning. Empress Dowager Zhuang lightly said, that little eunuch with protruding ears, keep an eye on him. Xiao Heng realized something and asked with a frown, is there a problem with him? Yes. Empress Dowager Zhuang gave him an affirmative answer without hesitation. Xiao Heng was slightly stunned. That little eunuch seems to be the most honest of the 4. Moreover, the 4 of them were sent by Zhang Dequan. My mother said that Zhang Dequan is a trustworthy person. Empress Dowager Zhuang said, either your mother trusted the wrong person, or Zhang Dequan trusted the wrong person. Xiao Heng pondered for a moment. How did Grandaunt know? Empress Dowager Zhuang said, I think that person is an eyesore and I hate him. If he can make me feel this way, there must be a problem. Xiao Heng. Is that so? Empress Dowager Zhuang sighed and said, when you have been betrayed by 1,000 palace servants, you will remember the appearance of 1,000 betrayals. All your little thoughts will have nowhere to hide. Gu Jiao said, Great Aunt, please speak human language. Empress Dowager Zhuang said, I want a candied fruit. Gu Jiao. It was impossible to give more candied fruits. If she said 15, then it was 15. Empress Dowager Zhuang finished the last candied fruit and smacked her lips. She wanted to take 2 more while Gu Jiao wasn't paying attention. As soon as she raised her hand, Gu Jiao said, "There are 6 left on the plate." Gu Jiao was making a mattress on the bed. She didn't look up, but she saw the shadow on the ground. Empress Dowager Zhuang's body stiffened. She curled her lips and pushed the plate of candied fruits to the side. She snorted with a sour face. Can there be some trust between people? Am I the kind of person who steals candied fruits? Humph. I don't want to eat anymore. Lulang is for you to eat. Okay. Xiao Heng brought the plate of candied fruits over under Empress Dowager Zhuang's death stare. Needless to say, these 6 candied fruits would become Empress Dowager Zhuang's private property in a while. Xiao Heng said, That eunuch. Empress Dowager Zhuang chuckled and said, "This kind of low-class little trick is something that I've never played before. Keep him. I want to see who sent him." She actually planted a spy beside her Jiao Jiao and Lulang. She must be tired of living. If I can't crush you to death, then my name isn't Zhuang Jince. Great aunt, do you have a plan? Xiao Heng asked. Empress Dowager Zhuang glanced at Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng and said lightly, "This is my gift to you. Just wait for it." The Imperial Palace. Imperial concubine Han was copying Buddhist scriptures in her bedroom. At night, there was a heavy rain. Many places in the palace were filled with water. When Su Gao came in from the outside, his whole body was wet, and his shoes were also wet. However, he didn't dare to change his shoes first. Instead, he went to Imperial concubine Han to report the news that the spy had reported. "How's the situation over there?" Imperial concubine Han asked as she copied the Buddhist scriptures. Su Gao saluted and said, "The emperor's grandson trusts Zhang Dequan very much. He has accepted all the people that Zhang Dequan sent." Imperial concubine Han sneered and said, "Zhang Dequan received Empress Xuanyuan's favor in the past. He has always remembered Empress Xuanyuan's kindness in his heart. Shangguan Yan and Shangguan Qing both understand this. Therefore, they firmly believe in the people that Zhang Dequan sent. However, they never expected that this consort had already planted someone by Zhang Dequan's side." Su Gao laughed and said, "That person was bullied by a eunuch when he was 8 years old. Zhang Dequan saw him and saved him. After that, he turned to Zhang Dequan. Zhang Dequan took care of him for 9 years and also observed him for 9 years." Imperial concubine Han smiled proudly and said, "Unfortunately, he didn't see any flaws." Su Gao said, "How could he know that the bullying that year was arranged by Imperial concubine?" Imperial concubine Han dipped her finger in ink and said proudly, "That little eunuch is also smart. Over the years we have cultivated a lot of people in the dark, but also exposed a lot. He is very smart. Go back and tell him that if he can help me overthrow Shangguan Yan and her son, I will ask for an imperial edict for him to be transferred to the palace supervisor." The palace supervisor just happened to be gone. Although he is still young, it is not difficult for me to help him get the position. Su Gao exclaimed, "This is really a great grace. Even this servant is jealous." Imperial concubine Han said, "Then I will transfer you to the palace supervisor." Su Gao hurriedly smiled and said, "Look at what Imperial concubine is saying. This slave is jealous that he got Imperial concubine's appreciation. How can I be jealous of the position of the palace supervisor? To be able to serve Imperial concubine is this slave's good fortune. This slave will follow Imperial concubine for a lifetime." Imperial concubine Han smiled and said, "You really know how to talk." Su Gao smiled and stepped forward to grind the ink for Imperial concubine Han. Imperial concubine Han glanced at him and said, "Go change your clothes and then come back to serve me. You are sick. I am not used to others." Su Gao was moved. "Yes." Just as he was about to withdraw, a burst of laughter came from outside the bedchamber. Imperial concubine Han hated noise. She frowned and said, "What's that noise?" Su Gao listened carefully and said, "It seems to be the young commandery princess's voice. This slave will go and take a look." At this moment, the rain was not heavy. There was only a light drizzle floating in the sky. The two little kids were barefooted, wearing small straw raincoats and small bamboo hats. They were treading water in the puddle. So fun! So fun! The young commandery princess was treading water for the first time in her life. She was so excited that she shouted. Little Jing Kong often treaded water in the Zhao kingdom. He wore the little yellow raincoat that Gu Jiao made for him. However, this kind of fun would not be reduced by treading water too much. After all, he was treading water in the Yan kingdom now. And there was also the light Shui treading water with him. The two little kids were having a lot of fun. The wet nurse could not stop them. Su Gao looked at the two from afar and returned to the bedchamber to report to Imperial Concubine Han. Imperial Concubine, it is the young commandery princess and her little classmate. Everyone in the harem knew that the young commandery princess went to study at Lingbo Academy. It was not strange that she brought a little classmate back. Imperial Concubine Han put the brush on the brush holder heavily and said, "So noisy." Imperial Concubine Han did not like the young commandery princess. The main reason was that the young commandery princess took away too much of the king's favor. You don't even have real power in your father's hands. How dare you look down on me? It was not true that the older one was, the more tolerant one would be. Sometimes, when a person was vicious, it had nothing to do with age. Some evil people would only become more vicious when they got older. Imperial Concubine Han could not afford to offend the young commandery princess. She could only vent her anger on the young commandery princess's new friend. The two children clattered forward. Little Jing Kong happened to be beside Imperial Concubine Han. Imperial Concubine Han calmly stretched out her foot and stretched it towards Little Jing Kong's foot. Little Jing Kong did not see clearly that it was Imperial Concubine Han's foot. He thought it was a rock and stepped on it. Imperial Concubine Han. Digression. Almost 9,000 votes. Please break the 1,000 mark. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more fully. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428286/10638777. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.